Stand up, all victims of oppression, for the tyrants fear your might. Don't cling so hard to your possessions, for you have nothing if you have no rights. So come, brothers and sisters, for the struggle carries on. Listening to Mike from PA unites the world in song. So comrades, come and rally, for this is the time and place. Join the Central Committee and unite the human race. Break down the billionaire system, bring down the bourgeoisie. To see the end of capitalism, we must set Luigi free. Demand that health care be provided, as well as housing and food security. We'll build high-speed rails and revolutions with heads of billionaires and solidarity. So come, brothers and sisters, through this struggle we'll carry on. A gift up to Central Committee is one step closer to righting the wrongs. So comrades, come and rally, and remember that Hutch owes Mike $1,500 because Mike was fucking right. Mike was fucking right. Mike was fucking right.
Alrighty, everybody, welcome on into the Central Committee stream with your host Mike from PA. We are live once again. Holy moly, what a day. The Hassadabi detention has now become a national media story, and it's something that I've been talking about a while, but I think a lot of people in Twitch in particular, most of the large streamers that you see on Twitch, understand that they are mediocrities. They understand that they bring nothing to the table, and for the most part, unless they're in a specific narcissistic spiral, they understand that it's luck and timing that made them what they are, right? But now we're starting to get to the stage where the money and the importance and the audiences of places like Twitch are starting to be noticed, and their influence is being counted. And the old fun Twitch of prior to 2020 is gone. We live in a new world now where this is like any other mass media product, and the value of it and the influence of it is starting to be acknowledged more and more. I think this is something that, Dragon Army says, I think Hassan still sees himself as the guy using a PlayStation camera to stream while playing Fortnite with his buddies. That's exactly right. And I think that period is over. And it's something that I've been saying to Hassan and about this media for a long time. Mike, some chatters were saying you were covering was drama. Now Twitch influencers are being detained while being asked about lies told on H3. I mean, there is no, this is not a drama. This is not drama. number one. And number two, this is politics in 2025. It's not, you know, I love democracy now. I love Giannis Varoufakis. I love Richard Wolff. I love Cornel West. I love, you know, I love watching philosophers and various content, deep dives and explainer videos and all the other shit. I do all that and I never stop. It is a right-wing deplatforming campaign of me and Hassan. And if you're not on board with us, if you honestly don't care, then I honestly don't think I think you should leave our communities and just go, you know? We'll protect you from wherever you end up. You know, if you think that, do you think that Majority Report is going to be able to hang around if they're deplatforming people like me and Hassan? Like, what, are you stupid? You made a prediction the other day about how the Democratic Party would attack Zoran for supporting whites only policies. Found a guy doing the exact same thing to defend Clyburn. Yeah, I know. The base of the Democratic Party looks more like a black Southern church lady who remembers Jim Crow than it does a white person from Brooklyn who blogs about Medicare for all. By the way, that's not who we're claiming the base is. Okay, there's a lot of things that are... I will say this. I will say this absolutely. Oh, I'm blocked by this fucking rat? He's a white guy from Brooklyn with a dog in his backpack! Is disrespecting elders primarily a white thing? Because I never see black community disrespect your elders the way white people do. Here's the thing about being an elder. Elders have dignity as long as they maintain their dignity. But when they don't, when they're undignified, when they don't have the right, when they don't step down and pass the baton, pass the torch, when they greedily hang on to power and position far beyond the point where they can reasonably maintain it, they deserve disrespect. These pathetic cowards, dude. And then when you look at these pathetic fucking cowards. Look at these pathetic fucking cowards, man. I despise liberals. If a revolution happens, I know where I'll be. That gets me going. Let's start off this by talking about the David Hogg shit. For when you're ready, here's a collection of the most evil people on the planet in one place as a reminder of what we're fighting against. Is the of Palestinians and the mass death a motivating issue for your voters? Is the Muslim community and South Asian and Arab communities particularly energized at this moment? IA strat. Oh fuck, sorry chat. Muslim community and South Asian and Arab communities particularly energized. By the way, when my nose is really like sounding stuffy, let me know. Guys, at this moment, I think it's just one example of how New Yorkers have felt betrayed by our politics across this country and across this city. I think this is very smart. This is what happens when I'm still waking up and I have not drank. I'm dehydrated. I'm Ethan Klein maxing. Strategy that the liberals are trying to do, just so you understand how racist and scumbaggery they are. The strategy they're trying to do is they're gonna go to the black community. This is what they're gonna do. They're gonna hire the most disgusting hucksters you can imagine to go around the black community and say, he's a Muslim, he only cares about Muslims, he's not gonna help black people. They're trying to pigeonhole him into saying like, my community is the quote Muslim community. They're trying to do a communalist wedge. This is also how our politics has become totally rotten. The 100% strategy of the centrist Democrats is to go into communities of color and say that these socialists or leftists don't want to help you. They don't mean you. When Bernie Sanders says Medicare for all, he's not talking about Medicare for you. He just means white people. That's what they're going to say. So when you say you have a universalist message, they don't think it includes them, because a lot of times in American history, it didn't. But liberals are shameless scum, and so they will just go and lie to these people's faces. So the strategy is clearly to be like, he only cares about Muslims. That's literally what they're going to do. And they are going to be omega racist to the extreme and create as much racial tension as they can. This is the CIA strat. Adam, I've actually done that before, to be honest. I have done that before, you know, and this is the strat. Like, this is what we're facing, right? David Hogg. Today, the DNC took its first step to remove my position as vice chair at large. While this vote was based on how the DNC conducted its officers' elections, which I had nothing to do with, it's also impossible to ignore the broader context of my work to reform the party, which loomed large over this vote. Our country is in crisis, and too many leaders in the Democratic Party are asleep at the wheel. Trump is on a mission to crash our economy, disappear people without due process, and participate in flagrant public corruption. And voters still trust him more than the Democrats. This is a massive indictment of our party. Last month, my organization announced that it would primary ineffective members of Congress who are not meeting the moment. In response, the DNC made it clear they were going to remove me due to the necessity of neutrality for the party. This is despite the fact that the DCCC, DSCC, and other party committees regularly get involved in primaries. Just this month, the Democratic Lieutenant Governors Association pledged a 7-figure ad spend to elect a candidate in a primary in Illinois. Past DNC vice chairs have endorsed candidates in the primaries as well without any issue. I ran to be DNC vice chair to help make the Democratic Party better, not to defend an indefensible status quo that has caused voters in almost every demographic group to move away from us. The DNC has pledged to remove me, and this vote has provided an avenue to fast track that effort. I want you to understand that what they're saying is incredibly important. And like, the Democratic Party is a pathetic party. I want you to understand that. Hold on. Let me see if I can find this. God damn it.
In his farewell address, President Obama told Americans that if they were fed up, they should go out and run for office.
If you're disappointed by your elected officials, grab a clipboard, get some signatures, and run for office yourself.
And in the Trump era, thousands of Democrats have heeded his call, running for office in elections across the country. Meanwhile, in the race for Congress, the DCCC, or the Democratic Congressional Campaign Committee, has moved aggressively to crush competitive primaries. DCCC officials and senior Democrats are hand-picking moderate, business-friendly candidates and are attempting to push progressives out of key races. In Colorado's 6th District, one of the most competitive seats in the country, the DCCC moved in early to select Jason Crow, a corporate lawyer, as the party candidate, pushing resources, endorsements, and money to Crow while elbowing out progressive Democratic competitors. The Democratic Party often denies that they play favorites. What follows is a meeting between Congressman Steny Hoyer, the number 2 Democrat in the House, and Levi Tillemann, a progressive running for the nomination for the Colorado seat.
Levi, I want to talk to you about this congressional race.
Absolutely, that's what I expected.
Yeah.
This audio was recorded by Tillman after months of pressure from the DCCC. This conversation was edited for length.
You would like me to get out of the race.
You keep saying I would like you to get out, and of course that's correct.
Yeah. I know you're fundraising for Crow.
Yeah.
You know?
I'm for Crow. I am for Crow because a judgment was made very early on. I didn't participate in the decision.
So your position is a decision was made, very early on before voters had a say. That's fine because that's the DCCC knows better than the voters of the 6th Congressional District, and we should line up behind that candidate.
That's certainly the consequence of our decision. There are 2 things I'd like you to consider. One may be easier than the other. First would be if you stay in the race. And frankly, I would hope you would not. I'll get to that. But if you stay in the race, it is not useful to the objective to tear down Crow. Crow's clearly the favorite. That doesn't mean you win. It just means he's the favorite.
I hear you.
That doesn't mean it's right. It just means
No, I hear you.
right. I don't know Crow well, but I think he's a decent human being.
So
before we get on with that, Jason Crow was, let's look him up. I mean, he won, so it all worked. Okay, here we go. Crow is a former Army Ranger. He completed 3 tours of duty in Iraq and Afghanistan as part of the 82nd Airborne and the 75th Ranger Regiment. After military service, he became a partner at the law firm Holland and Hart. Now that's what they really want. Let's see here. Practice areas. Let's see. Employment and labor. We handle collective bargaining, union elections, and workplace-related charges, complaints, and grievances and arbitration. AKA, we help bust the unions. We have decades of experience and proven results helping businesses manage their workforces through union avoidance, decertification elections, bargaining unit determination, and response to strikes and picketing. So what this means is union avoidance is union prevention, decertification is union busting, Bargaining unit determination is when you try to say that these members of the union are not in the same bargaining unit as this members of the union, so they should be covered by the contract. They should have to form their own union or have their own contract. And response to strikes and picketing, aka how could we bring in scabs and strike breakers? Man, we have decades of experience and proven results helping businesses manage their workforces. Now, this is the law firm that the Democratic Party says, yum, yummy, 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 more for my tummy. I gotta have these anti-union law firm corporate lawyer. That's who I want to represent the party. Now, this district is not a swing district anymore. It's pretty much a pretty solidly, left-wing district. So the idea that this was some sort of like, oh, we need to put the most, because Colorado has gone to the left, but they continue to get politicians like this. And he's for the New Democrat Coalition. So right there, he's on, that's basically the right-wing Democrats. If somebody's in the New Democratic Coalition, they're basically they're a Republican. And that's about a little over half of the Democrats in Congress. Just so you have context.
Before we go any further on that, Crow is the favorite, in no small part, Congressman Hoyer, because the DCCC not only put its finger on the scale, but started jumping on the scale very early on. And I'm born and raised a Democrat. I mean, it's undemocratic to have a small elite select someone and then try to rig the primary against the other people running. And that is basically what's been happening.
I hear you, and I disagree.
But you were part of that process
Absolutely.
as well. You said absolutely. Yes, yeah.
I've been at this a long time.
Yeah.
When I said you need to get in strong, hard, and early, you disagree with me.
My buddy, a leftist veteran, tried to run in Colorado, and the entire Democratic Party of the area ran a smear campaign. No one gives a shit about you being a veteran unless you're also a corporate whore. They don't want left-wing veterans. The Democratic Party does not want left-wing veterans. They only want right-wing veterans. All right? Like, that's the reality. I've experienced it many times myself. So I've seen it before. I think a lot of people are either in denial about what goes on, and I think this is the kind of crisis we have. We have, like, I love them, but I think the Majority Report is a great example of the people that are just in abject denial about what the Democratic Party is. And they just cherry pick people they like who made it through these processes through luck and various other reasons. Like maybe they had a really charismatic progressive. Maybe that progressive has been part of the community forever. A lot of really left-wing people win nonetheless, okay? Because their policies are just so much more popular than the right-wing Democrats' policies are, okay? A lot of them do win anyway, okay? Even with all this sabotage and interference. The Democratic Party that is firing Hogg is literally interfering in every single election up and down the ballot to put the most right-wing person they can in every seat they can. The idea that it's like we should allow states to just experiment with various types of Democrat and then pick the one that does the best is a fucking lie. It has never been true, ever, not once. So they're firing Hogg because he wants to do the opposite, which is he wants people that are in safe blue seats to be left wing. Yosan, calm down. And I get you, but calm down. They want right wing Democrats only.
That's your choice.
You guys are shoveling money at him.
I'm going to continue.
You're going to continue to do it?
We are going to continue to do it. And the reason we why we're going to do it is because a decision was made to focus. It was clear that was our policy and our hope that we could early on try to come to an agreement on a candidate that we thought could win the general, and to give that candidate all the help we could give them so that we would have a unified effort going into a general election.
Which means effectively, Congressman Hoyer, I'm running a campaign against Crow and against you and against the DCCC because you guys are on Crow's side.
And by the way, chat, Bernie Sanders won the counties in Colorado that Jason Crow represents. So, like, when we're talking about this shit, like it is what it is. Dr. Braid's like, thank you for the tier 3.
Yeah, you know, frankly, that happens in life all the time.
So the reason why I showed you this is because I want you to have that context whenever you see this, like, oh no, we need to fire David Hogg because he's interfering in primaries. Oh, we need to maintain our neutrality. I've linked this before. Ryan Gribb on the New York Machines. Elections are an annoyance to them. They're in it to gain positions of power, to enrich themselves and their friends, to bring misery upon their enemies, and to have a nice, robust social calendar. The elections are an inconvenience that have to be dealt with just to, yeah, I mean, of course.
These corrupt machines, which, and New York's not the only one, but it's one of the most corrupt and the most sclerotic, they're an annoyance to them. Like, they're not into this to win election, to
Now, this is something that you're going to see. Is she going to absorb this information as a reality?
necessarily win elections for some ideological purpose or to make the lives of constituents better. They're in it to gain positions of power, to enrich themselves and their friends, to bring misery upon their enemies, you know, both their personal enemies and their business enemies, and to then, you know, have a nice robust social calendar. Like they throw good parties. It's a very clubby kind of atmosphere, and that's what it is. And the elections are an inconvenience that have to be dealt with in order to justify the entire apparatus. That's a main reason why you have such low turnout. Like they even started moving, this helped cost Joe Crowley his seat. If you want to juice turnout, you put everybody's election at the same time, you know, from senator down to dog catcher. What they figured out is that if we spread these out, then people have even less reason to show up to vote. So you'd vote for Congress on 1 week, and then down the road you'd vote for judicial seats, and then you vote over here for ward leader or whatever. And because they wanted as few people participating as possible, because they wanted to know every single person who was participating, and be able to rely on their votes. That's why AOC was able to knock off Joe Crowley, winning, what was it, 16,000 votes or something?
Mm-hmm.
Just
yeah, I mean,
a hilarious number of people.
He was turning out in his primaries like less than 10,000 votes before she was running.
Yeah, and he turned out less than 10,000 again.
I know.
She turned out like 12 or something. It was like the funniest, like lowest number of votes that you could imagine in a 700,000 person district. But that was by design, because they don't want people participating. Because if people start participating, then they have to deliver for those people, and people will start asking questions too. Like, you remember the IDC, the Independent Democratic Conference, which was this collection of rogue Democrats who basically teamed up with Republicans to make sure that Republicans could control the Senate, so that the power then flowed up to the leader of the Senate, the leader of the House, and the governor. That way, organized constituencies couldn't really push on the party to do something, because they would say, well, we'd love to, but the Republicans and others. So that was able to fly, you know, for years. It was only after Trump woke up a lot of Democratic voters, and then they started paying attention. You know, that huge awakening, 5 million people marching the day of the Women's March. After they came home from the Women's March, people were like, well, what's going on here in my district? What can I do to make my piece of the world a better place? And they would Google and be like, wait a minute, I have a Democrat who caucuses with Republicans? No. And so that election cycle, 2018, they annihilated the IDC. That's the last thing that they wanted. Putin, his success over in Russia has come from his complete demobilization of the political process. That's what the New York State Democratic Party has done. They've just completely demobilized their base, and that's how they want to keep it. Then along comes a close election, and now all of a sudden you're like trying to crank this rickety, rusty machine, saying, "Hey guys, actually it matters. Can you guys come out and vote, please?" And as you saw, like not enough did, and it's going to cost them looks like it's going to cost Democrats the House and cost them the ability to codify Roe v. Wade.
By the way, they already had, by the way, the cinema on a hot sheet was with abortion. They had a trifecta at the time when Roe v. Wade was overturned. They just wanted to use it for elections. So they decided not to codify Roe v. Wade because they wanted to try to use it as a way to motivate voters to come out and vote. And guess what? They didn't. They lost anyway. No one likes Assad except his tightly controlled echo chamber. Bro, it's Asmon. You're in the Asmon gold. No. And I want you to understand this, bro. You're in a algorithmic bubble, dude. You're in an algorithmic bubble. Asmon gold is a laughing stock. Bro, he's literally covered in filth. He doesn't take showers. Like, rotting animals are all like, what? Are you okay? You think normal, like, women or normal people like Asmon gold? You're in a echo chamber bubble. Go look at TikTok, the most popular platform for young people. Asmon gold is a fucking laughing stock. Like, you are, I don't know what else to say. Like, also, you misspelled his name, which shows you don't even really know what the fuck's going on. I don't know what else to I don't know what to say to you, man. Like, I'm not saying Asmon gold isn't popular with the far right. Like, he is popular with the far right. That's true. And he does represent you well. I mean, what do you want me to say? Like, he does represent the far right well. The responses prove it. He's like, this is the, oh, you got his name right this time. The response, prove it. You're literally here. You're saying it's a tightly controlled echo chamber. You know who's an echo chamber? Asmon gold. Asmon gold is afraid to debate Hassan. He's running away from a debate about Hassan. Hassan directly challenged him, and he won't debate him. That's called an echo chamber. Speaking of echo chambers, I make fun of Asmon gold. Here, I'll show you on Twitter, which is the right-wing platform. I was last night, like, while dozing off, I made fun of Asmon gold. Look what happened.
Really interesting was in the actionable side of things. Yeah. They also asked, have you ever interviewed a member of Hamas? Have you ever had a communication or correspondence with a member of Hamas, Hezbollah, or the Houthis? Now, what's really fucking insane about that is that as someone who works in media, sometimes I do actually do journalism, right? As I've maintained this position over and over again. And I said that I would.
Journalism is when you tell people that they're like anime characters. Yeah.
I think one of the things that makes Asmon gold one of the dumbest pieces of shit on the planet, and also all the fascist adjacent content creators, whether that's Destiny or Ethan Klein or whatever, is they don't really believe in anything. I've said this before and I'll say it again. They don't really believe in anything. It literally doesn't matter in a multi-hour long interview if somebody made an offhanded joke, because it wasn't, by the way, he's not a member of the Houthis. He's just a guy who was popular on TikTok first. That's why he was on the interview. You understand that, right? Hassan didn't pick this guy out of obscurity. He had already gained prominence on TikTok, you fucking dumb fuck. And then Hassan wanted to know more about wow, it's pretty unusual for a Yemeni teenager to gain any kind of social media status in America. Let's learn more about this kid. Oh, it looks like he went on to the Galaxy leadership, which was recently captured by the Houthi Navy, Houthi military. Like, that's journalism, man. I don't know what else to say. Like, interviews with prominent people are journalism, even if sometimes they're friendly. And I think one of the things that's really interesting about this is, like, Asmon gold, like, he knows this is a good argument for his community, which are illiterate and stupid pieces of shit. And I think he also thinks it's a good, I mean, he also thinks this is a good argument, you know? Asmon would have significantly more appeal if he turned off his webcam. No. Asmon gold would have significantly more appeal if blank, blank, blank.
I don't want to be too particularly mean, but if Hassan was as big of a journalist as he claims he would be, maybe Bernie Sanders would sit down with him for more than 15 minutes.
Bernie Sanders has done that. And he was on Bernie Sanders' election podcast. What does that even mean? He literally just had the leader of the left-wing party in France on his stream. And then he, like, this is what I said in my tweet. I said, Assad was fresh off an interview with one of the most prominent politicians in France before preparing a talk at the University of Chicago Institute of Politics with a New York Times journalist, and this ensouled midden-heap is questioning his journalistic creds. Asmon, go wash your ass. I want Donald Trump to meet with Asmon Gold in his home. Chat. Imagine Donald Trump meeting with Asmon Gold in his home. Yes. Yes. Oh man.
Not trying to be mean, but you're a streamer. Stop trying to.
I think one of the things is like with somebody like Asmon Gold, like, listen, streamer is just literally someone who uses this website. That's all that streamer means. It just means you make live content on a video, audio video website. Like, what do you mean? There's no, like, again, I think when you're super low IQ, like Asmon Gold, he thinks there's some sort of magic that like happens on you if you post text, which he never reads, right? He doesn't read articles or books or anything. So for him, they're almost like wizard tomes, right? Like, ooh, oh my God, you read a book? Wow. 6 int. Whereas it literally, like, if you're not reading nearly every day, you're a fucking subhuman. Like, I don't know what else to say. So what he doesn't understand is that, for example, in a lot of other places, people use emerging media to spread their political message. Now, I think he knows that. I mean, Asmon Gold doesn't really have a message. It's more just like personal grievance, kind of petty bigotry, and trying to chase the, you know, whatever the algorithm is. So he doesn't, I mean, other than having a kind of like latent bigotry, you know, white supremacist outlook and a racist outlook. I mean, it's not really, there isn't really politics there. He's more of a nihilist. He's more of a sociopath who just sees you all as pawns to move around on his board. And I don't even really know, like, he wants attention, which is very fascinating for me. But I don't know why. I mean, I think it's, I don't know what it is. Like, I guess he wants to be significant, and he is. He is significant. I give him that.
Act like you're a journalist.
Would have given the opportunity to talk to someone that is a part of the Ansar Allah movement, a Houthi, or even Hamas, or even Hezbollah, right?
And here's the thing, like, it doesn't matter how many journalists respect and collaborate with Hassan, right? Whether it is CNN journalists, whether it is New York Times journalists, Washington Post journalists, whether it is The Intercept, whether it is Drop Site News, it doesn't matter how many journalists collaborate and admire Hassan. It'll never, for Asmon Gold, it'll never count because he's just a streamer like me. Now, Asmon Gold is uneducated, uninformed, not, I mean, he's not influential. He's influential in the sense of he gets a lot of attention, but, you know, people are like looking to him for advice or thoughts. Nobody's saying, we need to make Asmon Gold the face of the right.
Nobody would be criticizing that. And you guys remember, I defended him interviewing this guy until I watched it and I saw the entire thing myself. Because I agree with this in essence, but not in this practice.
And that, ladies and gentlemen, means he doesn't believe in freedom. Which is like, honestly, I would say that this is high school level civics understanding. So did Asmon Gold finish high school? Like, I know people who said he, quote, worked at the IRS. Doubt. But did he finish high school? Did he finish college? Did he get an education? Because, like, this strikes me as, like, really remedial level knowledge. Is, like, the purpose of freedom of speech and freedom of the press is not that you kind of, like, individually determine whether or not you individually believe it's good or has merit before you determine whether it should be allowed. That's the opposite of free speech. Like, there's a famous saying. It says, I may not like what you say, but I'll fight to the death for your right to say it. You know, guys, ever heard that one? Going like, I think you were too nice to the Yemeni teenager who's not a Houthi. And you tried to, you did a cultural enrichment. You did a, you humanized a civilian from a war zone. I don't like that you did that. Therefore, I think your speech should be censored. That means you don't believe in freedom of speech, you fucking dumb piece of shit. And here's the other thing. Like, I want you to understand that I outright advocate for the political suppression. Like, I believe that the paradox of intolerance is real. If somebody is like, advocates for a fascistic society, they should be suppressed. Period. He has an accounting degree or something. Yeah, I'm not going to, I hear that that's probably what's in the milieu, but I'm not going to give him credit for it.
I think that I have the right to do so. And what was interesting, you don't do journalism, you grift. I know, Chatter. That's why the fucking federal government is trying to arrest me. Yes, because I'm grifting too hard.
By the way, if you say something like that in an Asmon channel, you'll get permanently banned. It's like 100% echo chamber.
That's what it is. Thank you. Yes, you're
So the federal government is trying to arrest him because he's doing. Okay, I get it. Yeah.
Fucking dumbass slop tuber is correct. I'm grifting.
I know it's not a Houthi, but why are you interviewing a Houthi? I know it's not a swastika on the sword, but why do you have a swastika on the sword? Exactly. Acorn Magdump, what you're not understanding is these right-wingers like Asmongold, these scum, they know they're lying, but they also know that if in like kind of a microsecond first impression, they could put a bad idea or bad thought into an uninvolved person's brain, and they're focused on that. They're focused on spreading lies with intent because they know that understanding the context requires more effort than just the instantaneous lie. The old saying about how, a lie can make it around the world before the truth finishes putting its boots on. Like, that's what they're and that's why they're bad faith scumbag pieces of shit. And that's why they're just enemies of humanity. Like, at that point, when somebody is an openly bad faith disinformation merchant, it doesn't matter what side they're on or what they believe. They're just scum. And they deserve your derision and hatred forever and ever. It's not a forgivable thing to just go around spreading misinformation and lies. And they don't even really have a political program. Like, what's Asmongold's ideal world? What's Asmongold's, moderate, like, what's his short-term or medium-term political outcomes he wants? It's very easy for you to explain what mine are. I am open and proud about all of my views, medium-term, short-term, and long-term. What's Asmongold's? He's too much of a cowardly bitch to tell you. Same thing with Destiny. They're cowardly bitches. All these, Ethan Klein doesn't have any political views. Except one, Israel is good. I think one of the saddest parts of this is Hassan took a super charitable approach with each of these big slop streamers, XUC, Asmon, Aiden, Ross, Ethan. They all turned hard to the right to continue to grift. The reason why they turned to the right is because they were chasing the algorithm. And they were chasing the easy dopamine and the easy support. And the thing about fascists are, you'll get a nice little boost by being a fascist. You'll get positive feedback for being a fascist from these little fascist creators. Like it's part of their project. It's not that big of a boost, but it's a boost. And these are the type of people that don't mind doing things like mass botting your stream, right? They don't Asmongold is probably, he's a very popular streamer. Let's just put it at that. But we won't continue down this path. To be fair, Asmon has said he wants free healthcare and universal basic income. I'm sure he also wants to not smell like shit. He's failing on pursuing those goals, right? Like, if Asmongold says, if Asmongold tells you he wants to be clean, but then he is surrounded by filth and never showers or bathes, is he actually pursuing his objective of being clean? Like, if he says, I want universal health care, but he supports the people that are now trying to take away the health care that paid for his mom's treatment, for example, does he actually want those things? Wanting those things in some arbitrary or hypothetical world that doesn't exist, while you target all the politicians and advocates who are fighting for those things, means you don't want those things. It just means he's too much of a coward to defend the status quo because he knows how unpopular the status quo is. So he makes up bullshit because he's too lazy and stupid to actually make an affirmative argument in favor of the health insurance industry and the pharmaceutical lobby that he's fighting to empower. He doesn't want to talk to us about healthcare or whatever because he knows he would lose.
I'm gonna have to say that I don't think that he's grifting. Like, I think he believes what he's saying. I think the entire idea of saying somebody's grifting is stupid. Like, somebody is grifting whenever they believe something and then they do the opposite. I don't know what to say.
Grifters are like Asmongold. I don't like that. That's not what grifting means. Grifting means you adopt public positions to make money. And you either don't care or you don't agree with them. right? That's grifting. Grifting is not like believing one thing but secretly believing the opposite, right? Like that's not grifting. I think Asmongold is kind of telling on himself because he has public and private positions, right, on things like race. Like Asmongold, I would love Asmongold to explain like what his positions are on like race and whether he thinks like different races are better than other races, you know, in general. I would love to hear his thoughts on that. Grifting is when you basically, like, he's a grifter, right? Like, he doesn't really care about politics, but he uses it to make money. His private position is he doesn't care. His public position is chasing the right-wing neo-reactionary Trumpian algorithm. That's what makes him a grifter.
And so one chatter. No, and the thing is, like, he gonna get mad about that. That's it. He's lying and he hates his fan base. I don't want to get into that. Yeah, that's what.
Anders Nordic cares deeply about this shit. Oh yeah, no. I mean, I think he is. I think he's kind of a 4chan racist. I think you guys are overestimating Asmongold. Asmongold is a 4chan racist. He's a guy who was on poll and he saw a bunch of memes, right? And he's he's white, so you know, it is what it is. You know, he doesn't have much in the way of his own personal. It's just a pathetic. He's just a pathetic person overall in pretty much every way. Anyway, 9,000 likes. Nobody likes Hassan, I heard. Let's see what the responses is. Asmon is the most prominent political voice of the planet right now. No, he's not. He's the largest political streamer on Twitch. Or largest person who talks about politics on Twitch. That's not the most prominent political voice. What the fuck? Okay, first of all, oh, Wake Wilder hates you, man. Healthy Gamer GG. Interesting. Yeet. I think if I was this guy, Asmon has one of the lowest Twitch viewers to viewers ratio amongst the bigger streamers. 65% of viewers are logged in compared to Hassan around 80. I think that's. What's the website that shows you that? Is there a website that shows you that? We could take a look. I love it when good streamers like Hassan show the chatters what it's like to do some basic assessment of what you see on social media. I mean, like, all you have to do is like whenever somebody is like, and I just replied, he's literally filthy and covered in vermin, which is true. That's what's so funny. It's true. Mike gets played to glaze Hassan. Hassan got destroyed by a R-worded crackhead YouTuber with Tourette. This is Ethan Klein's fans, by the way. Also, this guy's name is KFC Manager 666. So let me guess. He's a racist. That he's really evil. He's the guy you're scared of. He's evil. He's got that long black trench coat. Okay, this is like a AI response. Okay. I wanted to see my favorite Asmongoldian responses. Oh. Wait, it shows you the logged in users and viewers? Oh, that's interesting. Where do you get this chart? Streams? You just go to streams? Okay. Zach Rar, right? God, what a fucking lame name, dude. What a fucking you have to click on an individual stream. 60,000 viewers and 40,000 users. And then he tried to play a video game. But he's played Claire Obscure Expedition 33. Interesting. God, dude. Look at how dead clips are unless they go viral. Unless they get put on LSF, there's no place for anybody to ever watch clips. You know what I mean? Like, even Asmongold gets like 15 views on clips. That shows you how ineffective Twitch is at like their own website. That's crazy. Yeah, okay, so I mean, he's got 20,000, you know, I don't think he's really that botted if I'm being honest. Like, just like looking at Asmongold's chart, it doesn't really strike me as botted. Like, there's a few kind of questionable spaces, but for the most part, I mean, I don't know, unless he has, I don't know if he would bother. I can't imagine botting yourself. You know what I mean? 67% users to viewer ratio, and Hassan's was what? 79%. Let's check mine. That's a good one to check. Let's do this one. Oh, mine's not in here? Wait, how do you get that to work? Only bot. How do you get that, like, thing to work. You have to be famous. I mean, I'm relatively. I mean, like, there's not that many streamers that are bigger than me as far as viewership. Hate to see it. Well, oh, we crossed 15 million hours watched. Look at that. You currently have an 83.4% ratio. How did you know that? I mean, that sounds about right. Like, no one has ever accused me of being botted. Asmon is a Chinese netizen's caricature of the lumpen American hog. He's the apotheosis of America's most repellent tendencies. Yes. 100 days ago, I was elected as vice chair of the DNC with 298 votes, well above the 201.5 threshold needed to win. David Hogg received only 214.5. Today, the DNC Credentials Committee heard a complex challenge to this election, and I voted for a new one to be held. I have thoughts. I disagree with the ruling. I ultimately committee voted. I respect their votes, even when I really disagree. Second, the press has been breathless in covering the main character they've chosen, David Hogg. They're rushing to do it again. I call BS. Yeah, he's a total fraud. He's a total fucking fraud. I've always been anti-Malcolm Kenyatta, to be honest. I mean, he would have been better than John Fetterman, that's for sure, but probably not that much. No, we haven't gotten to that yet. Super not. I'm still making fun of Democrats and everybody. So, chat, I was gonna watch Hassan's like I got detained thing, but then I didn't. You know what I did, chat? I was doing a little bit of paper hoarding. You know when you get behind on your mail and your like just your accounts and your files. Like I fell behind because I was like getting different insurance, and then I had to replace my car insurance, and then I got new health insurance, and I got new blah blah blah, 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 and I had like 80 different fucking envelopes of crap that were just in a piles. So I went through and sorted everything into my files. That's what I did yesterday. I purged all my paper hoarding. You're going to have a stroke listening to Hassan talk about his answers and his reasons to continually talking for them. They don't disagree on much. I like Bernie. I just doubt his ability to get things done. Hillary Clinton has what it takes to get it done. Yeah, I know. I've always been anti-Malcolm Kenyatta. See, there's like two attitudes. God, GDI, thanks for the motivation, Mike, to increase paper. Well, Vio has been more motivated lately in her, like, Vio's been so active in her shit. So it's like, I'm getting the overflowing dopamine. Like, I actually think this is real. Where I have ADHD, it's like when somebody else is working on shit, it makes me want to work on shit that I've been putting off. You know what I mean? Like, I have that like ADHD I need a co-pilot. You know what I mean? I love having a co-pilot. It makes me like want to do more work. It helps my productivity. His civil rights activist grandpa took the Kenyatta name from the initial leader after Kenyan independence, but just like how the Kenyattas are symbols of corruption and stagnation in Kenya, Malcolm Kenyatta living up this. I mean, you're probably right, but I don't know enough.
Boy, do I have some stories to tell you. Holy moly. They're watching. Oh, the feds are watching. They're always watching. Feds are all.
Of course they are. Did you watch the Melanchon interview? Not yet.
Always like this. Okay, now we know for real.
Wait, you haven't been diagnosed with ADHD? Dude, that's called body doubling. It's a legit ADHD productivity strategy. Oh, I am caught. I actually legitimately think I have ADHD now. Isn't exclusive to ADHD? Oh, okay, thank you. I was gonna say I am caught. Because like that is whenever I want to like clean the house, I always grab a roommate or whatever, or you know, and I'm like, all right, it's time for us to clean. Because if it's just me, I don't want to do it. You know what I mean? But if like another person is doing at least one other thing, then I'm like, then I can focus on it. H3 Sub was celebrating that he got detained. It was disgusting because it's just Destiny fans. They don't believe in anything but Hassan and Mike bad, and Denim's bad, and you know, whoever else they've declared their enemy. The most interesting American I have ever met, from Jean-Luc Mélenchon. Damn, that's a compliment. A French person calling you interesting is a compliment. I'm a freak who likes to clean. I like to clean too. I just have to get started, you know, and like having another person doing something is a big help for my productivity. Those who stand for nothing will fall for anything. Why Hassan, misspelling Hassan, dumbness is toxic and harmful. So in other words, you don't even know how to spell his name, but you're going to critically examine his work. One of the most significant problems of our time, if not the biggest problem of our time, is a lack of critical thinking, the ability to assess process information and data, and surmise a sense of truth regardless of preconceptions or bias. This is written by ChatGPT. I am somebody who writes like this, where I put clauses into my sentences, but this is written by Chat. This is not normal for somebody who's he did not write this. It's not necessarily any particular person's fault in a way. Okay, he wrote that. It's mostly a problem of our education system teaching us what to think rather than how to think. This tragically creates a factual vacuum for internet information and media consumption. The global village is ironically very insular. Now, let me just say this. Destiny literally does that. He teaches you what to think. He literally tells you who is bad and who is wrong and who is unreasonable or who is unrealistic. He doesn't teach you critical thinking at all. Oh my God. Like, the projection is fucking hilarious. Can we get your aviation analysis on this? Hold on.
Fast, sharp right. Fast, sharp right. Sharp right. Sharp right. Listen. Sammy, you have to listen to my call, Sammy. Please, I beg you. Fast, medium right. You have to turn the wheel, Sammy. 40. Fast, medium left. 50. Downhill. Triple caution. Triple caution. Stay center. Triple caution. Stay center. Whoa. Concentrate, Sammy, please. Medium left, long, turn in. Medium.
Okay, this, I don't know if this is real or not. So I can't really evaluate it. I just, my immediate reaction when I see something like that is it's just like, no, this is like selling memes. I don't understand the meme. So, oh, it's rally car? Okay, that makes sense. Medium left. Okay, that sounds like a rally. Okay, that's the rally. Okay, that makes sense. Yeah, that makes sense. I don't find that kind of stuff funny. I guess I'm too autistic or
5,
not racist.
4, 3, 2, 1, go. Fast, sharp right. Fast, sharp right. Sharp right. Sharp right. Listen. Sammy, you have to listen to my call, Sammy. Please, I beg you.
Okay, this is fucking based. Okay, that meme is good. All right, let's watch Hassan get detained. Okay, couple things to say, chat, about shutting the fuck up. As you know, one of the features of my stream is that every Friday during our opening music, we have the Shut the Fuck Up Friday, where we talk about shutting the fuck up. Now, here's the thing. There is one exception to shutting the fuck up. It's called a border area. Whenever you are transiting an American border, you do not have the same rights as when you do inside the country. You just do not. They have the right to search you. They have the right to question you. They have right to examine your documents without a warrant. Now, you could certainly refuse to cooperate, in which case you will probably be detained. So what do you do in a Customs and Border Patrol area when you're crossing or transiting a border differently from when you are talking to normal law enforcement? Now, the first thing I would say about that is I would answer questions that are relevant to the transit or or questions that are relevant to that. But when they start asking questions about other parts of your life, you just say, I don't discuss my day. I don't discuss my opinions with strangers. So let's see how well Hassan did.
I have a lot of interesting stories to tell you. Man.
My parents always told me never to talk about politics or religion with strangers. That's a good one.
Where do I begin? God damn. Yesterday, I did not actually broadcast for some interesting news. Once again, pre-watch Piker struck again. I remember I was joking about like what I foresaw would potentially...
Honestly, though, like I gotta say that if I'm in this same situation, I'm gonna break my own rule and just be like, aren't you ashamed of yourselves? Like, don't you feel shame? Like you went through all that fucking education and training, and now you're harassing people because of their opinions about Israel. Isn't that? Don't you feel kind of embarrassed? That would not be an intelligent thing to do, by the way. That would be an unintelligent thing to do. But I couldn't help myself.
happen as I entered the United States of America, and that thing that I foresaw happening actually ended up happening, and I'm obviously going to talk about it. For those of you who don't know, I was detained by Customs and Border Patrol. I was tactically ascertained and engaged in a kinetic situation where I was kinetically moved into a detention center inside of the O'Hare Airport, which I will tell you all about in a second. Oh man, didn't pass the ocular pat down. I believe it was before the ocular pat down. It's the flight manifest that they get ahead of time. They knew who I was and they were ready to receive me. Let's just say, and it wasn't a very warm welcome. So what's happening? What's happening in Chicago? What the was that? You know, this is only my second time coming back here, and the first time I was here for the DNC got kicked out. Second time I couldn't even enter the state. Almost. Definitely an interesting experience, let me tell you. Okay, our story begins at Paris's premier international airport, Charles de Gaulle. Okay, now I'm somewhat of an experienced traveler, and usually as an experienced traveler, I like to get to the Charles de Gaulle airport early because I know, no disrespect to France, I love the country, but Charles de Gaulle airport is one of the worst in Europe. It's a major hub, but unfortunately, due to, I think, like a lack of interest from the managers of any of these companies, where they just refuse to hire additional people. And I feel like in France, you just have to always hire more people because everyone is doing work very slowly. Okay, it's just the pace that you have to adjust to, and therefore you have to hire more people. There's always like work stoppages and stuff like that, and the unions are relatively powerful, but the corporate overlords will literally punish travelers instead of meeting the actual demands of labor unions there. So I've been in a situation where I've been like stuck in France and stuff. Like I had to do crazy maneuvering to get out. So I knew that. And because I knew that, I was like, I'll go 3 hours early. It's something that I never do. Usually I'm actually very slow. But this time I was like, I'll go 3 hours early and everything will be fine. I was already worried that I was going to have issues.
Oh my God, Hassan responded. Oh my God, Hassan also responded. Not gonna lie, I'd rather be me than Asmongold any day of the week. Truly impressive that he's still living in this his rot this way. I probably would have improved my living standards or found a swifter method to end the eternal pain of existence in this situation. I mean, me too. Like, and I think one of the things that's really interesting about Asmongold is I want to try to explain how pathetic Asmongold is. Just so you guys can understand it. So he has infinite resources. All he has to do is spend maybe an afternoon or two, and all of this situation would be fixed. Just one afternoon or two. He could literally just Google general contractor, call a guy up on the phone from his local community who's a general contractor, like look up who has you know, the more reliable or probably more expensive. He's got money. Or he could search real estate agent and go through, you know, pick one of the more prominent real estate agents in his area. Again, he's got money. So when you have money, it's easier to get better service because you pay a little bit of a premium, but you get people that are, you know, have long track records, right? One day he could call a general contractor, he could call a real estate agent, and then he could also call a professional cleaning service. Again, this is one afternoon, and just say, hey, I have this hoarder situation. He can call a professional organizer. Like, these are all people that do this stuff for work. He's got the money one afternoon, and he could hire people to take care of this shit. And then you just get a maid that comes in twice a week, and she just shovels all his trash, and she vacuums and does, you know, cleans up the place for him. It doesn't even take that much effort. It wouldn't even cost that much money. He's just a filthy fuck. Now, I don't have a maid. I don't have a professional organizer. I clean up after myself. I organize my own shit. I take care of my own business. But I could hire people if I wanted to. If I wanted to, I could hire people. I just don't want to, so I don't. The thing is, though, I don't live in filth, so I don't have to. And so what does it say about him that he does live in this field? Alyssa Mercante says, I don't feel bad for him because of this. And people saying like it's mental illness or whatever, call a psychiatrist. He's not poor. He has all of society at his beck and call because he has fucking money. Do you understand? Everything that he lives in, every bit of pain and suffering he has that is self-inflicted, he could easily fix it in one day. I'm honestly surprised when he was banned for 2 weeks that he didn't do it. Like, he said he cleaned his house. Why the fuck did he not just call and like spend the next 2 weeks getting professionals to like having meetings with professionals to get help? Set aside $5,000 a month for help, and that's not even that much, and he could easily get his shithole place cleaned up. Now, not that much for him. For normal people, $5,000 a month is insane. For him, he doesn't even notice. And so, like, living in filth, being covered in cockroaches, having rotten animals dying in the walls, having mold everywhere, having filth surrounding himself with, you know, fast food trash. That's a decision. He's affirmatively likes it. I think one of the things that I really like about whenever I think about Asmongold, the thing that makes me happiest is that there is not one person in his life who loves him. That's what makes me happiest. There's not just one there's not one person in his life who loves him. Not one. Zero. He's completely and utterly alone. He has 60,000 followers or viewers, live concurrent viewers. Not one of those people loves him. Not one. That's fucking crazy. That's fucking crazy. And what I mean by that is, like, if I was just teleported to the same exact conditions as Asmongold, me personally, I would have so many people who are intervening. People would just be cleaning for me at that point. Like, there would be people that I would have so many interventions. I would have so many people struggling and meeting with me and trying to help me and cleaning up after me and caring for me. I have such a support network that if I just change positions with Asmongold, within a week, that house would be cleaned. Within a week! And I wouldn't have to lift a fucking finger. Now, I'm not saying this because I'm saying, like, I take advantage of my friends and family and loved ones and partners to do this stuff for me. No. I'm just saying that if I entered a profound mental health depression where I started to not bathe and surround myself in filth, I wouldn't last a week without getting help because so many people care about me. And this motherfucker is 10 times, 20 times bigger than me as a content creator, and he doesn't have one person who gives a goddamn about him. No matter what I do, no matter what I say, no matter what insult I throw out, nothing will change that reality. And that reality is the most gratifying, most hilarious reality, because he deserves it. He deserves to live in filth. He deserves to be alone, utterly alone and unloved. There's never been a man who deserves it more than this man. And that's fucking awesome.
I don't want to be too particularly mean, but if Hassan was as big of a journalist as he claims he would be, maybe Bernie Sanders would sit down with him for more than 15 minutes. But he's just there. Yeah, bro, he's always there.
Money, and I'd like to see if they could, up the price. But
hey, how you doing?
Getting along pretty old guy.
Yeah. All right.
I think his dad might love him. I want to modify what I was saying and say I think his dad might love him, but he's like really elderly now, so his dad can't do it. His dad is so elderly, he might not have the wherewithal, right? And I think he might be sick. His dad says yo instead of I love you. I don't know. I don't want to say that his dad doesn't love him. I think Asmon's dad is a fan of Hassan, right? Like Asmongold's dad is a fan of Hassan, right? His dad is a Hassan subscriber. Does anyone have proof of that? Here, hold on, let me check. What's his username? Asmon dad? Okay. I'll have to check in some other way.
All right, I got your thing right here. This is all kinds of fucked up. So here's the battery. He's going to get the fucking battery for this garage door opener fixed.
If that
it's
works.
A massive piece of shit. Huge piece of fucking shit. We had to go buy a new one of these, and
isn't it just like a 9-volt or like a coin battery? Like, what do you mean needs someone to, like, isn't that like a project any 5-year-old could do? Oh, he was just in there. He was just in there a couple weeks ago.
It said we needed the Model B, and guess what? There were all over Amazon models A and C, And so, yeah, that's pretty much where we're at. So you're going to go up and try to find a new one of these and see if they can get one to match it up?
Yeah, hey, good luck on this, but...
yeah, sure.
But, I'm just waiting to see if I got to buy a whole new fucking unit,
There's no way. You're just going to have to call somebody. And, like, remember how I said I was going to get the lawn shit done for both of us?
Yeah.
So, like, if it's a situation that they can't fix today, I can, like, make it happen, right?
I feel like I don't even want to keep watching because I just like I'm an empathetic person. Like I'm an empathetic person.
He's probably mad that streamer's
like, and even me, like I start to feel empathy and pity for Asmongold, and I'm like, man, I want to help that guy. But then it's like, nah, no thanks. Nah, I don't think so.
His dad called him talking about you. Oh, Asmon dad called Asmongold to talk about me. Asmon dad is a fan, and he's a watcher. He's a head. He's a Hasanabe head.
I don't understand how he doesn't just say to his dad, "Here's 20 grand. Can you help me? Can you hire people to fix up the house, or can you get like what the fuck? Like even if Asmongold is this incapable, like god damn, that's just. I mean, even by the way, you bring up Tim Pool, but Tim Pool managed to do that. Like. As far as I know, his West Virginia compound is not like amazing or anything, but at least he kind of was able to do stuff.
I hope he doesn't hate me now because I've been very critical of Asmongold. Asmon dad does not agree with Asmongold on a lot.
Not to be too crass, but if I was Asmongold, I'd 100% end it. No, guys, you can't say stuff like that. So I need to time you out for an appropriate amount of time. Listen, we can't call for, and I don't want anybody to call for self-harm. It's against the rules. Like I understand how you feel. Like as I said, if it were me, it wouldn't be me. It couldn't be me. Like if I just swapped everything about my life with Asmongold, like I would be in a beautiful home within weeks. Like I have moved across the world multiple times. Like this is not a hypothetical. Like if everything about me were switched with Asmongold and I had access to the resources that he had, like I would not be in filth. and neither would any of you. Let's be honest. All of you people in here, even those of you who are still suffering, maybe some of you are suffering from, depression right now, and your room and your kitchen is messier than you are care to admit. Any of you in here in the chat, you would not be in the same situation. Like Asmongold is unique. I'm actually the opposite. I think Asmon is a smart dude when it comes to RPG games, so I wish he would just get some help and quit his right-wing grift. I mean, it's not a grift. I think he believes in the right-wing shit. I just think that he's kind of a nihilist. He's a sociopath. Like, I think a lot of people... Let's talk about sociopathy for a second. Let's just talk about it for a second. Like, when someone is... and it has antisocial personality disorder, what we colloquially know as being a sociopath, they really they don't feel the same way that you feel about others. Patients with antisocial personality disorder have been documented to describe emotions with ambivalence and experience heightened states of emotional coldness and detachment. Individuals with antisocial personality disorder who display antisocial behavior often experience chronic boredom. They experience emotions such as happiness and fear less clearly than others. It is also possible that they may experience emotions such as anger and frustration more frequently and clearly than other emotions. They have a limited capacity for empathy and are more interested in benefiting themselves than avoiding harm to others. They have no regard for morals, social norms, or the rights of others. Like, does that sound like anybody to you? Like Asmongold, like what we're talking about with the filth is a social norm, right? And he doesn't care about the rights of others. Like, that's why he's like, oh, I want to go and help round up people with the Trump administration. I don't care that that Hassan is being harassed for his views, right? Difficulty beginning or sustaining relationships. Multi-millionaire. The only people that are around him are the people that are using him for attention and clout. And that's it. The interpersonal relationships of someone with antisocial personality disorder to revolve around the exploitation and abuse of others. Arrogance, think lowly and negatively of others, have limited remorse for their harmful actions, and a callous attitude toward those they have harmed. This population also faces increased risks for mood disorders, including major depressive disorder, suicidal ideation, anxiety disorders. Comorbidities affect up to 50%. Listen, I'm not a doctor. I can't diagnose. Hutch is dumb as fuck. Yeah, we know. Hutch is dumb as fuck. He has Destiny hypothetical brain. Like, one of the ways that Destiny tries to engage with people that know more than him is he tries to move the conversation away from historical analysis and legal analysis of the currently existing facts into a hypothetical world where we could just invent the most ridiculous circumstances where, because what he's trying to do, like, for example, when you say civilian hospitals are not a legitimate military target, right? That's a plain spoken, clear enunciation of international law principles, right? Nobody disagrees with that. So what are you supposed to do when you see Israel bombing civilian hospitals and assassinating journalists like happened yesterday, right? What are you supposed to do with that? Well, you have to create a scenario where the civilian hospital loses its status as a protected location. So what does that mean? It means you have to create a ridiculous hypothetical, which is not real. So it's like, what if an enemy force was using a hospital as headquarters and was actively, firing from the hospital and was using it as a command post, and they were killing people, they were killing civilians from the hospital? Then could you bomb the hospital? And it's like, the answer to that is yes, of course. Those are the exceptions that are clearly laid out in international law for a circumstance when a hospital can lose its protected status. And they're like, see, well, that was true for Israel. And it's like, okay, do you have any evidence? And it's like, oh, I guess you went Pixar, it didn't happen. Israel is a democracy. They wouldn't just bomb a hospital unless they had a good reason. And there you had it. I just did every single Israel defense conversation you've ever seen in your entire life. And when it turns out that Israel nonstop lies about, the evidence so-called that they present, and they're just killing civilians in mass, we've moved on. A hypothetical has been entertained. Like, they want to and as Rosenblatt puts it exactly, it starts at the conclusion, works its way backwards. They want a conclusion where bombing a civilian hospital and killing kids is okay. So they create a fantasy from that conclusion and then pretend the fantasy is real. That's every single defender of Israel today. Every single one. Actually, there's one exception. There are people who think genociding Arabs is good, and yes, they are bombing hospitals, and yes, they are getting away with it because they are superior and they get to do what they want. There are some people like that.
Coming into the country, I had joked about it already. So I was like, at least on the one side, like, leaving the country of France will not be that big of a problem. And boy, was I wrong. Okay. Boy, was I wrong. So I hit the triple Monty. I had like a generational run. There was massive traffic going in. When you actually drive into the airport, the person that's dropping you off has to get a ticket at the gate. The ticket actually didn't work. Like, so we were stuck in traffic with like other cars behind us. Like, my driver had to get out and be like, and wave people away from the gate so that we could actually get to a gate that worked, all this stuff, right? And I'm like, oh brother, here we go. I mean, I'm flying business, so like I have sky priority, so I'm thinking like, oh, at least I'll be able to get my luggage in on time. Barely made it to the check-in. Okay, there was already issues with the check-in. Once I got through the check-in, I got hit at every single step. There's an automatic passport processor where you just kind of step into this room and then boop, doors open, you walk in, right? I wait in line. There's only one. None of the machines are working. Finally, I get to the machine that is working, and the machine stops working. It just won't take my passport. It won't take my passport. I was like, oh, here we go. So I had to go to an actual officer to let me through so I could get in. Then I got stuck behind classic old lady, okay? Old lady with a lot of bags, with a lot of fluids. So then like she's taking her fluids out and then like doing all this stuff at the security gate. I'm stuck behind this person. I already took out all my electronics and stuff. But of course, lo and behold, boom, I get stopped at security after this old lady as well. The old lady with the bags of fluids, classic. She obviously was stopped, okay? She had to get GSR swabbed, all this. And then of course, I also got stopped. Had to get GSR swabbed, all of this because I have electronics on me. And, I stopped there. Generational 3-hour run at Charles de Gaulle. And then afterwards, I get into the flight and I'm like, all right, finally. The flight was actually fantastic. I slept the entire time. I slept like a guy.
The flight was great. I slept through the whole thing.
Goddamn baby. Slept the entire time. Didn't even eat on the flight, which is crazy. There's never been a moment where I've It was like an 8-hour to 9-hour flight, and I didn't even eat. I slept the entire time on the flight. Finally get into the United States of America, and at which point I'm like, all right, let's do it. I got global entry. This is going to be my first ever global entry entrance. Hopefully this will—
I like to eat on— I don't like to sleep on planes. Like, I will if the flight is greater than 4 hours. I think you got to try to get at least a cat nap in there. But my general sense of flying is it's far more important that you stay hydrated. So being awake and hydrated and trying to align your sleep with where you're landing. So like if it requires you to stay up longer so that you could go to bed at the appropriate time in the new time zone that you're in, that's the best way. So like stay hydrated, stay, well fed, rest when you can, but try to get to your destination so that when it's time to go to bed at your destination, you are tired. That's like my biggest tip. If you sleep on the plane, usually that's not going to work out for you because you're not going to be very restful. You're going to be dehydrated, so you're going to be super fucking fatigued and you're going to feel like shit. And then you're going to want to go to bed when you get to your destination, even if you sleep.
Will go smoothly. Okay. First time ever getting into global entry. I got it after my brother yelled at me over and over again, telling me you got to get global entry, whatever. Right. I get to the global entry line and they're processing everybody expeditiously. You walk up, boom, immediately they take your photo of your face and you walk in and there's a customs person there, cop there, just basically waves you. Okay. And they do that over and over again. It gets to me. Take a photo, boom, walk in instantly. The Customs and Border Patrol agent goes, "Step aside, sir." I was like, here we go. All right. She goes, "Step aside, sir. An agent will come and take you to another location." I was like, is that proper protocol? It's like, sometimes it happens. I was like, okay. And I knew at that point, I was like, okay, I'm texting like family. I'm like, this is happening. I'm texting my manager. I was basically I got Lolo on. I was like, listen, I'm going in. All right. I'm freaking going in. Who knows how long this will take? Who knows what will happen? I had already heard like horror stories from people. There was like that one girl on TikTok that had talked about this, and I thought to myself, all right, it's done. It's happening to me as well. It is what it is.
Do you guys have that TikTok?
No. Am is real high. I'm about to say am is real high multiple times to get these guys off my back. So I'm waiting in the corner. This
Honest Reporting, which Ethan boosted in order to smear Hassan a few days ago, just got one of the most beloved journalists in Gaza killed. They retweeted to smear Hassan Esla. Now they move to their next target, Hind. Oh, really? They're going to try to kill Hind? I think one of the things that is rapidly happening in America is that it's only a matter of time before there is severe blowback. And I am not looking forward to that day. I am not looking for that day because that is the, Reichstag fire moment. I don't know if you guys have watched Andor season 2. Major spoilers for Andor season 2. So if you're not caught up, too fucking bad. I'm going to speak in very generalities so it won't ruin the moment when you see it. But one of the strategies of the Empire is to basically create a resistance movement so they could justify oppression. And in the moment, during a raucous protest, it remains peaceful. The protesters start singing a song, the Gorman National Anthem, and they're all singing it and swaying back and forth peacefully. So when the Empire, they see that their planned rupture isn't happening, they send out a bunch of undertrained Imperial police, like 18-year-old cadets fresh from the academy, into the crowd, and then snipers who are positioned overlooking the crowd, just like you probably saw if you were ever at a Black Lives Matter protest. One of them fires a shot in the din and hits one of their own, and they use that moment to launch a general massacre on the crowd, because it looks like somebody in the crowd shot down one of the cops, and then people in the crowd start fighting back, and so there are people who are legitimately killed by the Gorman protesters. This is the situation that's being cooked up. I don't know if there's going to be a false flag or if there's going to be an event of a rupture, or if there's going to be a lone wolf or just some, you know, anarchist doing propaganda of the deed. That's what I'm holding my breath. In my heart, I can feel it. It's going to happen. Like, I already know it's going to happen. And that's when the real clampdown is going to happen. That's what I'm worried about.
So I posted a video.
A couple journalists messaged me over this week, and they asked me a question. I'll just read my response. They asked me a question if I feel unsafe or whatever. And I said, or that it was going to make me change what I said. And I said, there is nothing the administration could do that would make me not speak out on the Gaza genocide or how to fight this fascist admin. I always assume everyone who speaks out for social change and progress is under the microscope of our federal law enforcement agencies. From CONINTELPRO and FBI attempts to get Martin Luther King Jr. to kill himself, the well-documented law enforcement infiltration of anti-Iraq war protesters, environmental groups, Black Lives Matter, or the severe repression of college Gaza protests, this country has a long bipartisan history of hostility to social movements. As for my personal safety, I take these threats seriously and am prepared to defend myself and my family. That is ultimately the only response. The reality is that what's happening today is no different than what happened in the 60s, what happened in the 70s, what happened in the 80s, what happened in the 90s, what happened in the aughts, what happened with Black Lives Matter. It's always the same shit. The federal government of the United States of America is hostile to progress of any type. And they're always going to do everything they can in their power, legal and illegal, to suppress it.
The Latina ICE agent comes up, picks me up, takes me to this.
I think this might be what you're explaining.
It was a night that traumatized Mexico. Exactly 50 years ago, mainly student protesters gathered in Tlatelolco Square to challenge an authoritarian regime. Then, the unthinkable. The army trapped them and snipers mowed them down. It's marked the country ever since. Felix Hernandez was there.
Aquí se veía ropa tirada, zapatos tirados y se veían cuerpos.
There were clothes and shoes strewn about, bodies lying there. We didn't know if they were dead or wounded. Shortly after, army trucks came to take them away and to clean up with high-pressure hoses.
Now on the half-century anniversary of the massacre, the government has admitted for the first time that what happened at Tlatelolco was a state crime.
This document explicitly recognizes the victims were attacked, slandered, some killed, others disappeared, detained, and tortured.
It's a big admission. Successive administrations have hidden the truth about Tlatelolco. Despite that, over time the massacre has seared itself into the country's conscience. Just to put it into perspective, Tlatelolco is about as important in Mexico as Tiananmen Square in China. It marked the point when the all-powerful PRI party, which ruled Mexico for much of the 20th century, was defied as never before. And in the party's reaction to that defiance, it also marked the point in which many Mexicans, which before had seen the party as a benevolent dictatorship, instead started to view it as a violent tyranny. Felix believes the protest movement sowed the seeds for Mexico's eventual transition to democracy. It gives some sense to his personal sacrifice.
I was arrested in the building next to the square and spent almost 3 years in jail. Here many friends of mine died, others wounded.
Assad did glorify Houthi terrorism. What makes it terrorism? What makes it terrorism? Why is enforcing a blockade so is enforcing a blockade terrorism? Like if you say, hey, we're going to blockade this country doing genocide and people try to run the blockade, who are the terrorists? I think it's the people trying to run the blockade and provide aid and comfort to the terrorists who are doing a genocide, right? Like you're not a terrorist because you're fighting back according to what international law determines. And you know how I know that the Houthis were actually not, they were actually trying to enforce a blockade and not just do random piracy? Because they released the crew and released the ship the moment the temporary ceasefire was agreed to. Like, and the idea that the Houthis are terrorists is laughably stupid. Okay, the reason why they've been put and taken off the terrorist list because of political considerations only. Because Saudi Arabia wanted to have their puppets in government who were overthrown by the people of Yemen. And so Saudi Arabia did a genocide and tried to starve them out to punish them for throwing their puppets out of government. Again, not a democratic country, a military dictatorship puppet of Saudi Arabia. And again, this is why slop tubers shouldn't talk about the Middle East. You don't know what you're talking about. And the government says all sorts of groups are terrorists and then changes their mind. So what is it about the terrorists? Just, they've called all sorts of liberatory groups that were the good guys terrorists over the years. Like Nelson Mandela, he was called a terrorist until 2008. Was he a terrorist? Is he a terrorist? Or was terrorist just a political label thrown on him to make his justified resistance criminal? Then he was taken off. So I guess he's not a terrorist anymore? So the Houthis engage in hijacking ships. The United States hijacks ships too. Does that make America? Here's the U.S. U.S. seizes 4 tankers. The U.S. just hijacked 4 ships right now. What do you mean? Here you go. They just seized 4 ships. The United States of America seized 4 ships trading between Iran and Venezuela. These are civilian transports. Well, oh, wait, this is okay? Wait, this is okay? They seized 4 ships. Because we don't like Iran's government and we don't like Venezuela's government, so we just steal their shit. You know, we've stolen billions of dollars of their money and assets and property. We bombed embassies or helped Israel bomb embassies. So really, you don't have a problem with this. It's more that you're too cowardly to argue the point. Say that you think the Israelis should be able to kill every man, woman, and child in Gaza because they are culturally superior. Make that your argument. That is your argument. All this other stuff is bullshit. Everything you're saying is bullshit. You don't believe that seizing civilian ships in trade is wrong because the U.S. does it all the time. Okay? So that's not your principle. Your principle is the free navigation of the seas. So why are you pretending it is? Because it's not. The U.S. doesn't believe in it, and you don't have a problem with the U.S. government, so you don't believe it. So why are you bringing this shit up like you think it matters? Yes, an Israeli-owned ship was seized by the Houthis. The crew was detained. And then when a ceasefire was agreed to between Hamas and Israel, the crew was released. Do I like that happened? No, I don't like that's happened. I don't want a genocide to be happening in Gaza, but please don't start pretending like you care about the free navigation of the seas. Israel just did a drone attack on a civilian aid ship off the coast of Malta last week. You don't believe in the free navigation of the seas. There's a blockade on Gaza right now enforced by the Israeli Navy. If you try to sail to Gaza, they'll kill you. Does that make Israel terrorist? Does that make Israel pirates? Again, you don't have any consistent principles. You're not trying to support a position that makes sense. I care about the innocents who got captured in the acts of terrorism. Israel kidnaps far more innocents. It's in international aid reports. Here's a story from Al Jazeera. A nation behind bars. Why has Israel imprisoned 10,000 Palestinians? For every Palestinian freed in the ceasefire deal, it apprehended 15 more. The number of political prisoners in its jails has doubled. So wait a minute. Are these innocent people just don't count to you? Why don't these Israel? Why do you not care? You're here to argue with me about the crew that were released unharmed. Why do you not care about tens of thousands of Palestinians that are political prisoners, including 400 children? Gaza can't send fishing boats out to fish. They get shot by the Israeli military. Yo, dude, what's going on? Wait, I thought you had a principle. What's your principle again? Where's your principle? I thought you had a principle against innocence. We can get into this more if you didn't know, which is, if you didn't know this stuff, tell me you didn't know. If you did know this stuff, tell me why it's okay. I call IDF a terrorist unit. Okay, so let me get this straight. You want to say the Houthis are bad and the Israelis are bad. Okay, I agree with you. The Houthis are bad and the Israelis are bad. Now, which country is getting $330 billion from America? Which country has 2 THAAD, ultra high altitude missile defense systems being operated by American military members right now? Which side has 2 main battle carrier groups currently protecting? Do the Houthis have America spending $330 billion? Which side? Which side are we giving $330 billion to? Which side are we defending in the United Nations Security Council? I'm not seeing an answer. I'm not seeing an answer. So what's your point? Israel extra-terrorist, so Houthi terrorism is okay. Okay, I'll explain it to you because it seems like no one's ever explained it to you. The United States of America, my country, who I pay taxes to, is giving $330 billion of terrorist aid to Israel to kill kids. My government, who I am a citizen of, is spending diplomatic effort in the United Nations to defend Israel, which you say is a terrorist. Now, what I want is the United States, I'll compromise with you. You and I, let's work overtime to block Israel from getting any aid or support from the United States. And I will compromise with you by saying no support for the Houthi military from the US, okay? No more military aid to the Houthis and no more aid to the Israelis. Deal? And until that point, so currently, we have no military aid going to the Houthis from the U.S. So we've achieved your goal, right? No U.S. military aid to the Houthis. Now let's focus on my goal, which is no U.S. aid to Israel. Deal? Now you have a new lease on life. You get to stop talking about the Houthis because the U.S. is bombing them, not aiding them. And then you get to go campaign for Israel to get bombed. You need to go and campaign for Israel to have all of their money taken away. And then we'll be on both sides. We'll sit on the fence together. You want to sit on that fence? I will love to sit on that fence with you. You have a deal. What do you say? And I said that's terrorism. Have the guts to call Houthis terrorists as well. Right now, there is a genocide going on in Gaza. There is one group that's taking any actions against Israel. It's the Houthis. And they're the poorest country who's suffered a genocide themselves. I think that the quote, Houthi terrorism is such a non-important factor of this that it doesn't even deserve to be mentioned. The U.S. is pouring this is what's crazy. You want me to say Houthis are so bad. Meanwhile, Israel is getting all the money from the U.S. What the fuck is wrong with you? What the fuck is wrong with you? Like, look at this shit. Here's a report from the United Nations. UN expert horrified by death of Gazan orthopedic surgeon in Israeli detention. This is from the United Nations. Office of the High Commissioner on Human Rights. The death of a renowned Palestinian orthopedic surgeon after 4 months in detention was horrifying, a UN expert said today, demanding an independent international investigation of the circumstances of his demise. I was horrified at the news about the death of Dr. Adan al-Bursh while being detained in Israel. He was the head of the orthopedic department at the Al-Shifa Hospital in Gaza City. Al-Shifa Hospital has been destroyed. Gaza City has been leveled. He was detained while undertaking his duty to patients and caring for them according to the oath he took as a medical practitioner. He died for trying to protect the right to life and health of his patients. This is more evil than anything the Houthis have done to Israel. This one act is more evil than anything the Houthis have done to Israel. This is batshit crazy. He was reportedly beaten in prison with his body showing signs of torture. Dr. Adan's case raises serious concerns that he died following torture at the hands of Israeli authorities. So he was tortured to death. 15 Palestinian medics were mowed down on camera in their ambulances. And then they were buried in mass graves. And they're with massive bulldozers, they buried the fucking ambulances they were to cover up their crime. But the video leaked. One of Gaza's most prominent doctors may have been raped to death. Recent revelations show. He's not the only one. And you're trying to come in here to talk about the Houthis? You're motivated to come in here and talk about the Houthis? What's fucking wrong with you? You're saying, well, they seize ships, Mike. Oh, well, the U.S. seizes a bunch of ships all the time. Oh, okay. Well, I guess seizing ship. I guess I don't believe in the free passage of the seas after all. I guess it isn't a principle of mine. I would love free passage of the seas. I would love for the United States to stop stealing people's money. Jaeger Larson, thank you for the 17 gifted subs. We are currently at Subwise chat 6795. I need to update. We're dangerously close to 6969. Oh shit! Jaeger Larson gave out 100. Okay, I think we're at 6795 is what my sub count says, not 66. I wish. So what I'm trying to say is, like, you're coming in here talking about the Houthis, but that's just nonsensical. And by the way, I don't want American military aid to the Houthis, just like I don't want American military aid to Israel. You're supposed to be the centrist. You're supposed to be America first. And here you are yelling about the one group that's standing up to Israel as if they need to have your condemnation. Are you insane? Tally Hugh, thank you for the 5 tier 1s. I appreciate you. Oh shit, chat. We're at, oh my god, it just holy shit, chat. We're just 69 subs away. Holy shit, chat. We're just 69 subs away. Chat, if you enjoy this content, the single best way to support the stream is right fucking now. We have a massive, oh wait, did we just have a hype train like an hour ago or something? No, we didn't. Why hasn't a hype train started? Huh? I think we're dangerously close to a hype train. Everybody sub right now. Give bits direct donate. There it is. Okay, I was gonna say. We are getting brigaded by who? I don't even notice. Who are we getting brigaded by? I don't even notice. Like, are they trying to brigade? What are they trying to brigade? We have a level 13 hype train. Mr. GK, thank you for the 5s. If you're a tier 3 sub, make sure you at me when you tier 3. Anyway, sorry for getting distracted, chat, but the idea that, Mike, the Houthis are terrorists just like Israel's terrorist. The United States of America is literally giving Israel hundreds of billions of dollars to kill we're literally giving them the bombs to kill the kids with, and you want me to spend my time condemning Houthis? Are you insane? How about we condemn the fucking country that's killing the kids right now? The Houthis have said they will stop all violence if Israel stops killing the Palestinians. The Palestinian killing is unjustifiable. It's not like Israel's doing the right thing and the Houthis are trying to prevent Israel from doing the right thing. Israel is killing kids and innocent men, women, and children. And by the way, innocent men too. Just because you're a man doesn't mean you get to be murdered and then get called a military fucking combatant just because you're a man. I'm so tired of that disgusting fucking sexism. I'm so tired of the way that people like Asmon are so fucking sexist that whenever a Palestinian man or an Arab man is murdered, even if he's a fucking doctor or a nurse or a paramedic, he's suddenly considered to be a military combatant. I'm tired of every brown person over the age of 15 who's male being considered an enemy, you disgusting racist fucking sexist fucks. These freaks would rather keep murdering babies and mass raping prisoners than give the Houthis the gratification of beating their demand. And by the way, the Houthis defeated the U.S. Navy anyway. Donald Trump just caved. Donald Trump just said they just declared uncle because the U.S. Navy was getting embarrassed. They just gave up. Like, they lost again. The Houthis won again. Asmon was out there going, I'll show you why we don't have health care. And then the U.S. lost. She has the best laugh. She falls a lot, but she gets right up back again, ready to play. This is a double amputee baby from our fucking money. How are you not mad about this? Like, I think that this, like, I don't understand it. Asmon, why are you not mad about this? Like, I'm seriously asking you, how are you not mad that your tax dollars went to mutilate this baby for Israel and Ethan Klein? How do you not look at Ethan Klein and be filled with disgust that he defends this shit? Like, I get the clout, like, oh, Hassan bad, Mike from PA cringe. I get that. But, like, you don't feel a little bit annoyed that you're surrounded by filth and your country's falling apart and there's homeless people everywhere and trash filling the streets and potholes everywhere and no one can afford a home and no one can afford health care, no one can afford a college. And you're like, yeah, let's spend more money to Israel. Her brothers, her sweet brothers and dad are still in Gaza. They're attacking and trying to cancel Miss Rachel for this. Absolute ghouls. I want you to understand that there is nothing lower in life than a Zionist. They are the modern day Nazi. If you believe what Israel is doing to the Gazan people is acceptable, there is no lower place on earth than that.
Detention center. I sit down, fluorescent light bulbs, the whole nine. Okay. They have benches in the back of O'Hare Airport where there's like a detention area. Okay. There's a detention area. I'm sitting there.
Chat, we have a hype train going on. If you want to piss off the most annoying people in the world, then you should give me money. Ethan Klein personally monitors my sub count. If you want to piss off Ethan Klein, you could piss him off by giving me money. It's actually incredibly effective.
Mike from PA, who is
up 10-year-old RB bad thing. More successful political streamers on Twitch. Do you think any of these people would give a fuck about me or bother insulting me?
I mean, every time I look, he has between 7,000 and 8,000 paying members, which is pretty disturbing, but it is what it is.
They would ignore me. I wouldn't matter. But the fact that, you know, we find them stupid and we're not intimidated and we're not scared and we're living our best lives, that's what they're mad about. H3, where they found out your average viewership.
3.8K average.
How much?
Right now, the past 30 days, 3.8.
Okay.
Wild.
Yeah, I know.
Like
the fact that they're able to succeed is a condemnation of the entire movement.
Notice that Ethan Klein, whenever they talk about me, there's no substance, right? There's no like, oh, Mike made this argument and it's wrong. Israel didn't torture that doctor to death. Israel doesn't have 10,000 Palestinians, political prisoners. Israel isn't murdering children and bombing Al-Shifa Hospital. Israel isn't destroying the Turkish-Palestinian Friendship Hospital and then using it as a base, right? There's only one group that's using hospitals as bases in Gaza, and that's the IDF, right? Notice that he doesn't talk about the substance of what I say. He only tries to attack me as a person, right? Mike is the enemy of the show, piece of shit.
Just you stopped you in your tracks.
There are multiple that I forget. There was a little boy who was really shocked and he was shaking and
Wait, hater behavior part 2?
Mike from PA, to me, is a full-on grifter. One day, I'm going to do a video on this guy. He is the most pathetic dipshit on all of Twitch. And just to show you how easy this grift is, this guy is like relatively successful. And he is like not talented. He is vile. And he is cringe as fuck. What's his average view count?
By the way, no points.
Probably like a couple K.
Couple K?
Does he really get a couple K?
Nice. And somehow he still succeeded. You know, he has 7,000 members or something. Every time I see that number, I'm like, whoa. I'm happy to say that his sub count is getting lower.
Is it?
Yeah, I mean, it's closer to 8,000 before. I mean, every time I look, he has between 7,000 and 8,000 paying members, which is pretty disturbing, but it is what it is.
Like, I gotta be honest, I don't even notice when Ethan Klein talks about me. I legitimately don't notice. Somebody has to tell me.
Mike from PA, 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 Mike from PA,
Mike from PA,
Mike from PA, Mike from PA, Mike from PA, Mike from PA,
Mike from PA,
Mike from PA.
My God, dude. People are like, Mike, why do you hate Ethan so much? I don't, he's just like come on, man. Have they ever made a point? Have they ever made a point? A single point against me? All right, let's get back to Hassan Gig. Thank you, everybody, for supporting. Hey, we're back above 7,000 subs. Thank you, Ethan Klein. There you go. We're back above 7,000. Let's make our goal 8,000 again. Just chat. Every time I dip below 7,000, Ethan Klein smiles. Just remember that. So never let me dip below 7,000.
There's like a bunch of terrified families, okay? There's an old lady in a wheelchair. There's like a mom and daughter behind me. There's some like...
Why didn't I link? I'm so stupid. By the way, clips from PA. Why are... I want to post... That's such a good video. We should have posted it on my account.
Who is as hideous on...
All right. Okay, that's... Wait. Where's hater behavior 2? Oh, fuck. Wait, what? Link it to me again. Do they expect you to like someone who constantly shit talks you? So weird how someone so hostile would expect anything but hostility in return. Well, the weird thing is, like, I basically ignored Ethan Klein until he put me in the content.
Mike from PA, to me, is a full-on grifter. One day...
Wow. What a compelling argument. What a compelling argument they made. Here you go. Everybody. Oh, I can't wait to see this. Not talented, vile, and cringe as fuck. Oh my God, Ethan is just obsessed and it's pathetic. Ooh. I didn't even retweet this yet. Every time I look gave me stalking vibes. I really hope AB and Lena get out of this hostile work environment. You guys gotta stop pretending Lena and AB and Dan are good people. You guys gotta stop. At least you got to stop around me. If you're going to be in somebody else's community of cope, be in a community of cope, but don't pretend these people are nice people. Don't pretend they're nice people around me, okay? If you want to go into your own fucking community and cope about how they're actually really good people at the end of the day, you do that in your time. Don't do it around me, okay? Fuck you. Mike makes a lot of money pretending to be a communist. Pretending. Pretending. What's so funny about people like Ethan Klein and all the other grifters is, like, if I was a sellout like them, like if I was a sellout like AB, I would probably be a chief of staff on a congressional seat right now. I'd be living in DC, like, or I'd be a state senator or something. Like, if I was actually a grifter, I was in those positions. I decided not to. In 2015, I embraced Bernie Sanders and went against all the fucking connections and shit that I had made in my run in 2014, all the people I'd helped run for office in 2015 and 2016 and 2017 and 2018. I went against those people and embraced Bernie Sanders in 2015. I went away from the grift. I had all sorts of corrupt connections, which would have carried me to anywhere I wanted in the Pennsylvania fucking Democratic machine. If I wanted to sell out, I could have sold out. I decided not to because I'm too autistic and I too am focused on justice and what I believe is right. And I don't like corruption. I find it disgusting. It bothered me. If I wanted to sell out, I could have sold out a quadrillion fucking times. I'm here because I'm not a sellout. Grifter, incredible.
Random dude in front of me, and
if anything, my big problem in life is that I'm not subtle enough. I'm not manipulative enough. This is literally what people have told me. They're like, Mike, you're too honest. You're too blunt. You don't suffer fools. You tell people what you think of them. When somebody does something wrong, you tell them right away, and that hurts people's feelings. And some people don't want those type of people around them. They want sycophants. They want people that are going to cover their ass when they do something wrong. They don't want people that are going to, that's always been my problem. My problem in life, grifting, selling out. Give me a fucking break. Like, are you kidding me? Like, if you're going to attack me, there's a lot of things you could attack me on, but grifting? Give me a fucking break.
The way it works is there's a back door, right? And they take your passport, they go to the back door. You don't know what the hell's going on in there, but they sometimes come out and they just say someone's name with their passport in their hands and they go, you're clear to leave. Basically, when they bring you to the detention area, they, I guess, do some kind of surveillance.
More difficult and heartbreaking images like those of that double amputee girl should be blasted way more often. I watched a video the other day of a small Palestinian boys whose hair had turned gray. I hadn't been able to let that image go. Nobody could deny the visceral feelings images like that provide. I mean it. They should be beamed into buildings. We try. But here's the thing that you have to understand about gore and violence. And thank you guys for the 231 subs. I appreciate you. Here's the thing about violence that you guys are not understanding, or gore, or any of these other things, is that in our media environment, people have learned how to just not engage with this type of content because it's available. They know how to filter it. They know how to not engage with it. And they will feel like you are causing them distress and they'll turn against you. You have to have some for a conversation to work. For a conversation to work, let's finish this Miss Rachel thing. You need to have a person in a position where they feel like they could take in the information without judgment, that they could have an authentic emotional reaction without being shamed.
His eyes were just, there was so much terror in his eyes, and a healthcare worker was being so compassionate, and you see that compassion, and he finally was able to cry because he was just so shocked he couldn't even cry. And then Hendra Job's voice on the phone, I'll never forget. And I know some people can't even listen because it's so hard, and I think that's, that's so understandable, but as just, her voice, and a little boy who was staring at the wall who had lost his whole family and just was staring. And then there was a little, oh my gosh, sorry, a child in like a rainbow onesie. And my daughter has a rainbow onesie, and I had to give it away because, you just see that and it just doesn't make any sense, because as grown-ups, we know what children need and what they deserve and what will help them grow into happy, healthy adults. And it will benefit us all. It's right to speak out because this is wrong, but it's also right to speak out because it's going to benefit everyone.
I think a lot of what people are scared of is that we can change the world. I think that's the message that scares people the most. Not the idea that we can't change it, but that we can. That's what people fight against. That's what liberals fight against the most. That's what conservatives fight against the most. They want to believe that the world is the best possible world and we've done everything we can do, and some of the things that suck are just human nature and it is the way the world is and it's a fallen world. Whatever your fucking individual cope. But if you look back into history, you actually see that human beings have done better and things have gotten better. And liberation has spread and freedom has spread. And guess what? Prosperity spread with it. When we emancipated the regular citizen, when we gave universal suffrage, the right to vote to every adult man, that didn't make the country poorer, it made the country richer. The reality is that freedom leads to prosperity, equality leads to prosperity, helping people leads to prosperity, taxing the rich and helping the poor leads to a better society. When you go out into the built environment, societies that give more to the poor have nicer streets. They have cleaner parks. They have better hospitals and better schools. When we take from the rich to give to the poor, it makes the world more productive and more physically beautiful. You can literally see freedom. You can literally see it with your own eyes. When you're in a society that is functional versus a society that isn't, you could see it in your own eyes. When you go out on the streets of LA and you see homeless encampments and trash and filthy streets and potholes, that is the side of inequality. Inequality is ugly. So oppression is ugly, physically ugly. And that's what's so ironic about the capitalists and the fascists who claim to be aesthetic, right? But their aesthetics they use is filth. They use ugliness to justify their oppression, so they need it. If everything is clean, if everything is functional, if the poor and the sick are cared for, why do you need to hurt anyone? Why do you need to suppress anyone? You don't need a scapegoat when things are running well. So to have a scapegoat, you need things to be fucked up and broken. To justify violence and taking away rights, you need things to suck. So that's what they do. They make things suck so they have somebody to blame. To do what? To protect the privileges of the ultra rich. And that's the only place where beauty is allowed to exist. Inside the gated off communities of the hyper rich in their penthouse apartments and their luxury villas and their 300,000 acres of agricultural land. And their bunkers in Hawaii. That's the only place where beauty is allowed to exist in this fascist society. And that's the thing. That's why they hate when you show videos of China. They fucking hate when you show videos of China. And what's the first thing that happens when you show the Chinese, subway running well? The public transit more beautiful than the most private. You know what, chat? Here's the thing I want you to understand about these rich fucks. They exist in ugliness too. That's the thing that's so insane to me. That Elon Musk exists in ugliness all the time, even with all his wealth. Do you think that the place where private jets go is like really nice? It's like a corporate fucking strip mall dentist office. It's not beautiful. Do you think the executive airport is nice? It sucks. Real beauty exists in these common spaces, not in these little enclaves. Fucking gross, man. That's the thing that's wild, is how hideous these fuckers are.
On your background to figure out if you are going to get harassed even further or if this level of harassment is fine. Okay. And I asked and I looked around at all the passports that people had to see if there were other American citizens. And lo and behold, at least in the area that I was at, I was the only American citizen. There was another guy.
I've been thinking about standing outside of my local police department with a giant sign saying, "Do you stand with ICE?" Let me just help you out. The answer is yes. I'm gonna just help you out. I'm gonna let you know the police in America are the vanguard of fascism. There is no ambiguity. They stand with fascism. They stand with ICE. They will do violence. They don't care about the Constitution. They're too lazy and stupid to even look, and they violate rights on a regular basis. That's who your local police department is. They don't care. Now I want you to think about it from their perspective. Imagine you're a fascist and you're trying to repress a city and you're trying to identify all of the radical leftists and you're trying to identify all the people that might resist or protest. What could they do to make your job as easy as possible? I have an idea. Going outside of their fucking police station and raising your fucking sign saying, "Do you stand with ICE?" So they could take a picture of your face. They can send it into they can arrest you and hassle you and talk to you. And then they can put you on a list. So how about you make their job harder?
Guy that actually had an American passport as well, because I asked the terrified family behind me, I was like, hey guys, if you don't mind me asking, like, do you guys have an American passport? They were like, no. So it turns out it's just they're terrifying the shit out of mostly non-American citizens, okay? But apparently they're also interested in trying to terrify American citizens as well. So they're just like coming in and out. They get this lady in a wheelchair out of there, which I thought was so insane. Old lady in a wheelchair is in the ICE detention area, and they come out with their passport and they're like, here, you can leave. Okay. So that's one thing, right? Like, I've had secondary searches and stuff done to me before. I've had the, I think it's called the quadruple S. Like, they put the SSSS on your boarding pass, and you always get checked randomly when you get hit with that. Like, that's happened to me a lot in the past. I get GSR swabbed all the time. That stuff is normal. I've experienced that quite a bit. Okay. But this time I didn't even have the quadruple S on my boarding pass. So I was like, all right, it's probably fine. So I wait. Finally, this agent comes out, says, Hassan Piker. I'm like, that's me. Coming with me. I'm like, oh, brother, here we go. They take me to this back room. Okay. And the back room is not great. The back room is designed in the most hostile way I've ever been inside of a room. The vibes are really back there. Everything is fluorescent light bulb. Obviously, they had these 2 seats that were firmly planted into the ground. Okay. They were complete metal. They were like tiny stools, very uncomfortable, with like braces on the side so you can handcuff someone to them. Okay. And there was also a seat for like a lawyer. So I sat down on the lawyer seat on the corner to establish dominance, because I've watched too many JCS interrogation videos, and I knew I had to have command over the room. So I didn't sit in the cuck chair. Instead, I sat in the lawyer chair, and we got to talking. And let me tell you, folks,
I would do the same.
TikTokers that talked about being detained, they were right. It was an insane situation. So it's very obvious that they knew exactly who the I was. It's very obvious that they knew how to like navigate the conversation, and it was a really, really interesting conversation that took.
Okay, before we go on, I want to. Okay, now that we've established that Hassan was in this situation, this is what you should do. Hold on, I think I might have already pulled it up. I may have not pulled it up. Okay, may not have pulled it up. So let me just pull it up. Never mind. If you go to my Friday music playlist, the National Lawyers Guild put out this video.
It's lovely. It's lovely talking to you as always.
Oh, hello.
We were just talking about you kids.
I'm Denise Heberly.
And I'm Bill Goodman.
Together, we've been fighting fascism for over 50 years.
And so much has changed over those 50 years, such as the ingredients to a successful firebomb.
And the glass that bank windows are made of.
But there's one thing that hasn't changed over 50 years, something that is so important to tell you kids who are new to this movement.
Shut the fuck up. You're sitting in the police transport van after a protest?
Shut the fuck up. In a holding cell with your comrades?
Shut the fuck up. Cop knocks on your door?
Shut the fuck up.
Texting on an unsecured device?
Shut the fuck up. Pulled over by the cops after a protest?
Shut the fuck up. Cop just asking about your day?
Shut the fuck up. Feds, call your mom?
Tell your mother to shut the fuck up.
Now, repeat after me. When the cops come calling, what do you do?
Shut the fuck up!
All right, let's see if Hassan followed this principle. Now, I have some more very specific things that you can say to police. Like if they're like, oh, what have you been up to today? Like, you know, I'm not discussing my day.
Place. It was very cordial. Okay. It was very cordial, which I thought it was strange how cordial it was. Because I've had.
It's called good cop, Hassan. It's called good cop. You just act cordial until a person incriminates themselves, and then you go, haha, thanks for admitting it. They knew that you were probably expecting them to be hostile, so they tricked you up. They flipped you out of your expectation by acting nice.
Had run-ins with like.
Wait, are we supposed to shut the fuck up, or are we telling the officer to shut the fuck up? You should not be rude or aggressive with police. You should remain tight-lipped but cordial. And by the way, shut the fuck up doesn't mean be silent. It means listen. My uncle is a lawyer. My uncle Mike is a lawyer, and he always told me to assert your right to remain silent. So I'm asserting my right to remain silent. Am I detained or am I free to go? If you're detained, say I assert my right to remain silent, and I'm formally requesting my attorney and that this interview be ended. That's it. That's it. That's it. If you actually get detained. Now, a lot of people think I can talk my way out of things. And the reality is, if you're innocent, that's the most dangerous attitude you can have. The police and law enforcement are not there to catch the guilty. They're there to get marks on the board. They're there to get convictions. And they get convictions by following a process. They do not care whether you're guilty or innocent if they can get a conviction out of you. That is what they're there to do. So are you going to be their next conviction, or are you going to be the person that's too much, who didn't give them anything and is obviously too smart and has too many resources, and that it would be annoying to deal with? They want easy marks. They don't want people that have the wherewithal and the money and the intelligence to resist. They want people that they can intimidate and who don't know what they're doing.
Cops in the past. I've had run-ins with feds in the past. Well, I guess the FBI was very cordial as well when I had some talks with them in the past. But overall, I was not expecting CBP agents to be cordial. I will say that. Okay. Now, having said that, the entire process is supposed to be intimidating. So it's like suck my cordial or whatever. Okay. I think they were being cordial because they wanted me to say something that was incriminating and say something that was enough to justify further detention from that point on. And let me tell you, they certainly did do that. So he knew exactly who the I was, but he was basically like broaching the conversation in a way where it was like free flowing, where in the process of discovery, he was adding on additional talking points. He always made it seem as though he was asking certain things that after discovering in the process of that conversation, he would ask additional questions. So, you know, he's like, oh, what are you doing in Chicago? And I was very revealing. I was like, well, I was in France because I want to take my family out for Mother's Day to France, but I had to come back early from France, even though today is technically Mother's Day, because I have a speaking engagement at University of Chicago. And he was like, oh, what kind of speaking engagement? It's like, I don't know, some like journalism school stuff. And he's like, oh, well, since you mentioned that, he kept saying, oh, well, since you mentioned that,
I'm an American citizen returning to my home.
What do you do as a job? And I was like, I'm a Twitch streamer. And he's like, well, since you mentioned that you were a Twitch streamer, what kind of things do you stream about? And at first I was like, do I just tell him I play video games? Because I don't think this motherfucker is going to believe me if I say I just play video games to him, right?
Okay. Other thing to mention. If you are speaking to law enforcement, especially federal law enforcement, never tell a provable lie.
So I was just like, yeah,
and you know what's a provable lie? The idea that Hassan plays video games on stream. Can you guys imagine if Hassan got prosecuted for saying he plays video games on stream? Like, he could literally be like, imagine Donald Trump is like, we got him. He says he plays video games on stream. And they're arresting him for lying to a federal agent. And they're like, he's like trying to bring up the time he played Helldivers with me. Does anybody have a clip of me playing Helldivers with Hassan? It's like, the last time he get video games was when he played Helldivers with Mike and Nandre. Also, I carried that. I fucking carried that. Can I just say that? When I played Helldivers with Hassan, I was the carry. Those motherfuckers were carried by me. What is this?
I'm diving into hell. I need to do the tutorial, apparently. That's what Nandre said. And then afterwards, Nandre, Nessawa, and Carter, and myself.
No, this isn't the time I played. This is Nessawa. I think it was me. Was it me, Nandre, and Carter, or was it me, Nessawa, and Carter? I think it was Nandre. This is another time he played Helldivers. I wasn't there. I played him. I didn't play with him when he was a noob.
play video games, but I also do current events sometimes, drama, internet. And he's like, oh, do you talk about, since you mentioned that, you talk about the things that you talk about, do you talk about the news? And I was like, yeah, I talk about the news. And he kept saying,
having been carried by you at Helldivers several times, I can confirm you are a very gentle but strong carrier. Thank you.
okay, so when you talk about the news, do you talk about the war? And I was like, what do you mean by that?
That's true.
He's like, do you talk about Trump? And that was the first time where I was like, what the is this question? Like, I literally straight up told him, I was like, why are you asking me this? Like, I was like, what does this have to do with anything? And it was interesting because the dude asked so many insane questions, none of which is illegal, by the way. I just
okay, chat. Okay. We have a piece of evidence, and I could testify. If Hassan gets arrested for claiming he plays video games on stream, we have a clip.
Carter Nestawa and Mike from PA be diving into hell. I'm gonna be held up. Fuck, where did I drop into?
In hell, brother.
Shit.
We can resupply them.
Oh shit. The only problem is
we did it.
These fuckers are dive. Holy shit, dude. We got hella fucking jumpers.
Okay, first of all, are we sure this is Hassan's gameplay? Are we sure this is Hassan's gameplay? He's aiming at targets too well.
Need you to understand, nothing I've done online is illegal as of now, if that makes sense. Now, laws may change in the future, and they might actually start prosecuting speech, which I do fear is the goal of
this. You were in his gleaming blast off that I made? Yeah. I really like when Helldivers dropped, I was a big fan. I did enjoy it for quite a while. Now I'm playing my like autistic games. I'm playing Blueprints. I'm playing Terra Invicta. I'm playing shit like that. I need to get back in like my social games.
Administration, but so far,
have you played Claire Obscura? I played through like the tutorial part.
Everything I've done is fully protected under the First Amendment, okay? And none of these questions are actually valid questions to ask. But I was entertaining it because, one, I didn't want to present it as being difficult because I didn't want to extend the detention. And two, I actually wanted to see how far I could take it. Maybe it was up of me to do that. Maybe
you played WoW for like 2 days? Nah, I had a guild. We played SOD Part 1. We played the first part. We had a pretty good guild for SOD Part 1. And then I think we played Part 2 a little bit, but then I became less interested in it.
Was not appropriate for me to do that, to play fast and loose with a person that has complete control over my life in that very moment. But I wanted to see like what they were trying to take from this conversation. So, you know, instead of just pleading the fifth as I'm supposed to do.
We cleared like the Nomergon raids and the what was the other one? What's the other raid we did?
In situations like this, I just kept giving him answers. And there were definitely areas where I was very...
What's your progress like in Blueprints? I have unlocked all the rooms. I have the Royal Scepter. What else? I've got like half the trophies, something like that. Maybe a little bit less. Maybe like 7. Maybe like, I think it's 6 or 7 trophies. I think I need like one more key for the 8 doors. I have like 5 current clues that I'm pursuing. So like I'm pretty far, but I still have like a lot of other stuff that I'm still like doing. I'm nowhere near like being stuck. I've read all the books. Mike, have you seen my new emote? Wow, a small streamer has a new emote. Wow.
Revealing about my position, knowing full well that they know exactly what they're looking for. I saw no reason.
Jay Mariana is like, Mike, I would pay $1 billion to see you play Chain together with VO. VO and I played through both of that what is that called? Split Fiction and the other one, It Takes Two. And honestly, we crushed it. We crushed it. So I don't think that would be a problem. Anonymous Gifter, thanks for gifting 6 months of tier 1 to VO. Wait a minute.
To hold back on certain things. So I said, I don't like Trump. I was like, what are you going to do? It's protected by the First Amendment. I don't like Trump. Yes. Right. Like, I was like, I'm not fond of him. I don't like him. He said he was going to end the wars. He hasn't ended the wars. What the is up with that? You know? And the guy actually was very sympathetic. The agent was very sympathetic. And I don't know if it was.
No, he wasn't.
Like JCS style interrogation technique to come across as sympathetic to like invoke some kind of positive feelings out of me in an effort to like get me to reveal something maybe that'll trip me up. Or because he just genuinely was sympathetic and he had the vibes of someone who was like, I don't know why I'm doing this. Right. But he was like, listen, I'm Iraqi.
This is my problem. This is my main problem with Hassan. This is my number one problem with Hassan. He's the type of guy who thinks he would vibe with a grizzly bear. Okay. He's the type of guy who thinks that because he has hot guy brain. Let's be honest. Okay. When you're a really hot person, people are just nice to you in general in life. You get stuff for free. People open doors for you. They're nice to you. They're always trying to like hang out with you. You have hot person brain. This is true for hot men and hot women. Okay. It is life on easy mode. Okay. You think people are on your side. You think people are generally nice. And so he thinks he could vibe out with a grizzly bear. He thinks he's vibing with the Border Patrol agent who's interrogating him about his political beliefs. He's like, oh, I'm vibing out with the Gestapo guy. He was sympathetic. No, he fucking wasn't. You are being manipulated. Now me, as mid-mic, I don't have that problem. Okay? I don't think when people are nice to me, I'm narrowing my eyes. I'm like, what are they trying to get out of me? What are you trying to get? I'm suspicious. I'm inherently suspicious.
So I know. And let me tell you, I do think that him being Iraqi played a big role in this, because if he wasn't, there was a lot of Redditor ass white boys that are at Customs and Border Patrol at O'Hare Airport. I saw them walk by. There was a dude who looked like he was like 25.
Oh my God.
Grizzly bears look cute as f. That's the problem. I think,
here we go.
Oh my God.
I feel like I could vibe out a bear.
This is my most unreasonable position. I feel like catch me in the wild, me and a bear. Bear sees me, notices my vibes, and is like, oh, you're chill. Like he just like sits down next to me. We eat together. You know what I mean? We hang out. We dab it up.
As two men, are you embarrassed right now?
Well, I know that bear's gonna eat his ass.
Okay. I feel like I could vibe with a bear.
This is what a bear wants to do to you. This is what a bear wants to do.
This bear is coming right up to me. Unfortunately, it ignores the seal's breathing hole and heads straight for me. She's coming closer and closer. Oh my God. She is enormous. Really is why I've come.
Polar bear's attitude is, oh, are you made of meat? I'm going to eat you now.
Yeah. To see these animals, to get to understand them, see them up close. Hey, bear. Oh my God.
He's sniffing and he goes, oh yeah, that's something to eat.
Hey, bear. The bear's nose is thousands of times more powerful than mine. It's gathering information before it approaches, like it would when stalking a seal. My scent is strongest at the weakest point, the door. Yeah, that door's not good. Okay, just checking the lock. Okay. It's systematically trying from all angles. Being this close, get an appreciation for what this animal is. It is one of the most powerful animals on the planet, one of the most intimidating animals on the planet, and one of the few animals that actually see us as food. The bear's nose has led it to a gap. You can sniff me. Gosh, I could have actually touched its nose. A little. She's feeling the pressure there. She can actually feel that perspex is flexing. She's trying to see if she can crawl through it. She's trying to see if she can bite through it. It's getting a little bit hairy in here. I can feel that he's just pushing all his weight against the side of the cube.
Chat, if you ever want somebody to explain white people shit, this is it. This, to me, is the essence of white people shit. I would do this. I would go on the cube. But I understand that this is white people shit. This is how you can tell the difference. Thank you, Vio. Vio has given me a brie pastry. This is like brie. It's a baked brie. It's wrapped in some sort of like Vio's showing off their nails. It's a baked brie and puff pastry, and it looks like it has like candied walnuts. Is that right? Here, let me see if I can show you guys this. Do you see this? And there's some crackers. All right, let's keep going.
Oh, not sure
like a
if
little
I like
brie.
that. Not sure if that's good.
I'm not sure if that's good. It's not good. I'll tell you what it is, Chad.
Her best bet would be to get
Should
a
have
full
asked
weight
Vio, they were right
on
there.
top of it, just like she does when she's breaking into seal layers, and push. Okay, don't go on top. On top's dangerous. Look, he's just towering above me. If I was to be standing side by side with this
Can I just say this bear is absolutely beautiful? Like, what the fuck?
animal, it would be about 7 feet tall. Oh, you're gonna do it. You're gonna do it.
It's just so funny that this is what nature is like. Yep. This is the killing machine that kills all other animals. Look at his little face. Look at those ridiculous paws.
Oh, you're gonna do it.
I'm trying to kill you.
You're gonna do it. Hey, bear. Every time she pushes,
Does he
every
have a
time.
gun? Because he doesn't sound American. So like, if it were me, you know, you have some shotguns or some elephant rifles. I wouldn't try to go at anything less than buckshot at a bear, and I don't even think that would do it. I would be slugging, like, you know, you want a 12 gauge slug, and I would be scared. I don't think a 12 gauge slug would stop a fucking bear. Fuck though, you got in the box. You're the one going out now, not the bear. Yeah, this is literally your coffin.
She exerts a little bit of force. She's using up calories.
Notice how close they are to the ice cutter. They barely went. Like, these ice caps are some of the most inhospitable places on the planet. The fact that there is a multiple 1,000-pound 7-foot animal that is such a good predator that it's like, not only does it survive, like, isn't that batshit crazy? Like, polar bears are the most insane animal. How do these exist? Like, this is crazy scary, man. Like,
worth eating here. Is there anything worth using up energy for? Inside there is, definitely. Little old me. Once it
I don't think a
realizes
10 millimeter pistol round is going to stop a bear unless you hit it in like a vulnerable spot.
Difficult to get in, the polar bear moves off.
He gave up, or she gave up.
Definitely at this point, my fear far outweighs my fascination. This is closer to a polar bear than I ever imagined I'd ever get. That's not something I'm going to want to do again in a hurry. Definitely not.
Can you imagine if like screws were loose? The largest polar bear ever recorded was 2,200 pounds. In comparison, the largest tiger was 850 pounds. I love I'm a bear guy. If you're asking me like which is my favorite, tiger, lion, or bear, I'm a bear guy. Whenever I go to the zoo, and I understand zoos are problematic, cancel me. Whenever I go to the zoo, I like bears and I like orangutans. Those are my visit spot. And if their habitats are not really large and nice, I get white people mad. Okay, so those are the top animals for me. Then maybe we'll visit some like elephant. Maybe we'll take a look at like large cats. The large cats are the most depressing for me. Like, a large cat being in a pen is the most depressing for me. Because it's just like, yo, that's crazy. Apes being in prison also does bother me, Thizza, I'm not going to lie. My local zoo has a brain damaged bear they rehabbed named Eleanor, and she's the most amazing, adorable animal. Aw, that's cute.
5 max, but he was balding.
Would I go on an African safari? God, that's a good question. It's not currently something that I want to do, because I feel like I don't know enough, and it feels just like my spidey senses are tingling that it's bad. But I'm not totally against visiting Africa for like checking out wildlife. It's way less exploitative than zoos. You're probably right.
And I knew immediately, if that mother is my agent, I'm screwed. I'm going to CCOT. This dude is going to literally cook me. So I got a little lucky. Like, all right?
My feelings on zoos, since I said they're problematic, let me just give you my thoughts in general. The number one threat to every single animal species on the planet is humanity. And so we need institutions that inculcate people with respect for nature and the biodiversity that exists on our planet. And if it means that we need to have some zoos so that people understand how important diversity is and they appreciate it, I think that is worth it. Now, if people could get inculcated those values without zoos, I'd be happy to, you know, close zoos down. But I think that in general, having people dedicated to the study of animals, the protection and conservation of animals, and a place where human beings can satisfy their curiosity and awe in nature, while also keeping us from like going out and fucking it up, is a good thing. So in general, I have complicated feelings about it, but overall, I think it's a good thing to get people interested and involved. I like zoos, but animals in the circus make me mad. Yeah, the circus is probably not okay. It's probably not okay.
Right, I will admit. So basically, I think the reason why they sent the Iraqi CBP agent is because they bracket you into different categories. For me, they wanted to conduct an investigation about my involvement with Hamas and my involvement with the Houthis, or they suspected my involvement with Hezbollah. Straight up. That's literally what this conversation was about. And it's not even a joke. Like, they literally tried to get something out of me that I think they could use to basically detain me permanently, which is...
I figured out what's in the thing. It's orange marmalade.
It's insane, because there is no direct connection or direct involvement. So we're talking. You know, I'm telling him like, oh, I'm U Chicago. I'm going to be speaking there for the journalism school. I told him like, you know, I don't like Donald Trump. And I was like, so why are you guys doing this? And he's like, oh, it's just like routine. It's a routine process. I was like, it doesn't feel too routine. And basically, my big fear from the entire situation was like, if they were to ask for my phone, not that there's anything incriminating on my phone, but I don't want the federal government inside of my phone beyond the, you know, beyond all of the times where they probably have been engaging in like warrantless surveillance on my phone or whatever like, it's not your business. You know what I mean? It's none of your business. It's a goddamn free country. Like, there's privacy laws for this country. So for those of you who don't know, by the way, they can't actually unlock your phone. But if you have biometrics on your phone, they could technically use that and put the phone to your face and unlock it that way. So just so you know, they could technically do that. OK, they could technically do that. But there's a trick. Either you get a burner phone when you're traveling internationally, or if you have your regular phone, you can just do a passcode by either canceling biometrics, or if you forgot to cancel biometrics, like your Face ID, what you can do is click it 5 times. If you click hold 5 times in a row, it will actually disable Face ID and it will force you to put your passcode in. And because there are laws against like the agents not being able to force you to put your passcode in, they can't actually access your phone like that. Now, there's different methods of how they can access your phone. From what I understand, they can also put it on a computer and just like plug it into a machine, and the machine just basically takes all of the information in your phone. So it is what it is. I don't know if you can actually do that if your phone is on, but I was thinking about...
I never consent. If somebody decides to search your shit, you never consented.
All these things. I had already unlocked the biometrics, like I disallowed biometrics, and it's a Faraday cage once you get into the detention center anyway, so you can't actually send any
text messages once you're in there. There's no access to the internet. I'm sitting there and they're asking me about Trump. They're asking me about like Hamas. And he kept saying stuff like, do you like Hamas? Like, do you support Hamas? Do you think Hamas is a resistance group? Do you think Hamas is a terrorist group or a resistance group? Like, he just kept asking over and over again, right? And I kept repeating.
Wow, that's insane. That's fucking insane. The answer is, I'm an American and I have a First Amendment right to say whatever the fuck I want.
The same statement over and over again. I kept saying a couple different things. One,
also notice that he was asking him what he thinks instead of asking him about something he said. Is this thought crime now? Are we having thought crimes? You're not allowed to think Hamas is a resistance group now? It's one thing to advocate for it, but now you're not allowed to think it? This is Ethan Klein and Asmon Gold's definition of freedom, by the way. The right for the police to interrogate you about your thoughts. And with friends like Tectone, I don't think Asmon Gold wants the police interrogating him about his thoughts.
In terms of like Israel and all the wars, I was like, I'm on the side of civilians. I want the endless bloodshed to end. I am a pacifist. I want wars to end. I just kept repeating that over and over again. Every single time he asked me a question, I just kept repeating that. And every single time he asked me a question, a leading question about Hamas, I kept saying,
guys, so
the
let's
United
talk about-
States State Department recognizes Hamas as a terrorist organization. The United States State Department recognizes Hamas as a terrorist organization. So he just kept asking me over and over again, like Hamas, Houthis, all this, trying to be like, oh, do you support them? Do you like them? Like, what do you think about them? Which I thought was insane, because the reality of the matter is, up until this very moment, if you were to say, as an American citizen, you stand 10 toes down with Hamas, or you stand 10 toes down with the Houthis, or whatever they can't deny you entry into the country for that. I don't know what the they're trying to do. So I was like, I'm not going to go beyond it.
Yeah, but they could use that as a justification for other federal law enforcement activities. Like, ultimately, they could admit you to the country, but then they'll take the report of what you said and send it to the FBI, or send it to, some other law enforcement or intelligence service, so that they could justify more surveillance of of you. And then eventually they might even deny you foreign travel.
I'm not going to go beyond just like reiterating over and over again. The American government's position is that Hamas is a terrorist organization. But then he just kept asking me about the Houthis. He's like, well, do you agree with the terrorist designation for the Houthis? And I said, I'm of the Brookings Institute mindset that in 2020, when Donald Trump initially designated the Houthis as a terror organization.
You shouldn't have answered this question. It should not have answered this question. It should have just been like, what does this have to do with me getting back home? This is irrelevant. I have no contact with the Houthis. Shut the fuck up. I mean, even that's too much. Once you start talking, you're just going to give shit up.
That was a major mistake. I talk about these issues from an academic context with humanitarian rights organizations and with academics and with journalists. As a matter of fact, this is completely protected under First Amendment laws, and therefore, I don't understand what the reason why we're having this conversation is. And I kept saying that over and over again, at which point he just like kind of gave up. But what I thought was really interesting was, and I even followed it up with like, I said, I call balls and strikes. And there are things that Trump has done that I actually agree with. And I'm not shy about saying those things, even though initially he said he was going to end all these wars. He hasn't done so. I think these wars are unnecessary. They're costly. And a lot of civilians die in the process. I don't think it's appropriate. I think it's very inappropriate. And it must end, right? Like that's my position. But I do think that Trump did a good thing where he implemented a ceasefire with the Houthis. So when he does stuff like that, when I agree with him, I tell him what's what. When I agree with Trump in a decision, I'm open about it, right? So I explained that to him, and I just yapped away over and over and over again. And what I found to be particularly interesting was, in the first half of the conversation, it was just like basically a fact-finding mission, right? Try to get me to say something that I think would be of interest. In the second part of the conversation, there were some real actionable items that he presented that, depending on how I answer those questions, like I'm going to jail. Because the first stuff was just illegal for him to ask me those questions and completely idiotic and ridiculous. And I think they did it because they know who the fuck I am, and they wanted to put the fear of God into me, not knowing that I'm a stubborn piece of
And, you know, that's not going to work at all, right? The second half of the conversation was actually like, because he left, went away for like 35 minutes, came back, and then he asked like actionable items. But
30 minutes and came back? Like, if you're in contact with activists or illegal migrants or anyone who is vulnerable on your phone and you bring your phone with you through customs, you're putting these people in danger. What Azan did was incredibly irresponsible. The problem with ICE unlocking your phone is that it could put other people in danger. Yeah, that's a good point. I don't think Hassan was incredibly irresponsible because they couldn't get into his phone without basically seizing it. I have decided, like, as far as me, I am not doing foreign trips for the time being. That's just a rule that I've put on myself. Because I'm exactly in the sweet spot of famous enough but not quite famous enough. Whereas Hassan is completely famous. So there will be enough people that come to his defense if something goes wrong, then would be for me. It would be much slower for me. So that being said, if at all. So I'm not planning on doing any foreign travel for the time being. And it's because of stuff like this, obviously. That being said, I think if I did do a foreign trip, I would basically take a burner phone. I would leave my main phone at home. I would bring a burner phone. I wouldn't bring my main phone or my computer. Would you recommend others travel or not? I think America is rapidly descending into a fascist state. So if you're not a citizen here, I wouldn't recommend coming here. Platforming terrorist propaganda isn't protected speech. You're certainly no constitutional scholar. I'll say that much. This is Ari Code. Who is a constitutional scholar. You don't need to be a constitutional scholar. The citing support for a designated terrorist group crosses legal lines. You don't have to be anything to know things that are completely wrong. I would imagine that's one of the principal benefits of being a moron. Yeah, this is how you really need to treat Asmon Gold and Destiny fans. Just do what I do. You call them a moron. That's really all there is to it. They're fucking stupid, and they also don't believe in anything. So you're not like having a argument with somebody who's believes something. Imagine thinking the Constitution protects influencer cosplay while regurgitate talking points from foreign terror orgs. You're not defending speech. That's literally speech. If I went out in the middle of the street and just said, you know, Osama bin Laden is good, that's speech. That's very clearly speech. Curious that you'd say the words regurgitating talking points and not defending speech. What exactly do you think speech is? Speech ends where material support for terrorism begins. The Constitution isn't a suicide pact, no matter how badly TikTok lawyers want it to be. So in other words, he's saying the Constitution, he's not following the Constitution, but he's also saying, so this is why this guy's stupid. I want to explain something here. He's saying that speech is material support. That's not what material support means. Material support is actively aiding the organization, not speaking in support of them, but like giving them training, giving them money, giving them doing services for them, actually helping the group directly. That's material support. Saying you like the group, saying that group is good is not material support. Even repeating some of the things they've said is not supporting them, because every journalist forever would be then arrested for terrorism, you dumbass, because journalists report on what terrorist organizations say all the time. You're using words you read on the internet but don't understand again. Yeah. If I'm misusing terms, you should be able to explain why without sarcasm and smug filter. Anyway, so what was I saying? The Constitution protects speech. The Constitution protects unpopular speech more than anything else. That's the whole point of it. Free speech is not for the speech that I like. It's for the speech I don't like. That's what free speech is supposed to be there for. And just because you declare a group a terrorist group, who gave you that authority? You just get to declare groups terrorist and now I can't agree with them now? So if I declared Asmon Gold a terrorist, that would mean that you can't say anything in support of him, and you'd be okay with me going and showing up at your house and arresting you for being a material terrorist supporter? Like, it's just a dumb designation that you made up and gets revoked by our government all the time. All terrorist means is group the United States of America doesn't like. That's all it means. That's literally all it means. A foreign group the United States of America doesn't like.
One thing that I will take note of that I thought was very interesting was the fact that a lot of the that like the Ethan Kleins of the world have like cried about over and over again were unironically brought up in that
conversation. And I was shocked. Okay. Not like the bleach sword, obviously, but like,
I don't understand why he's surprised. I think the one thing about Hassan is I don't know if he's pretending to be surprised or if he's actually surprised. I'm going to go with pretending, because the United States of America and the FBI is a secret political police. I know you guys don't like to hear this, but the FBI is America's Gestapo. Their point is to go around and control the social and political domestic environment. All right. And to police the borders of what the government says are acceptable. All right. So they're always monitoring anybody who's advocating for change. Even people that are advocating for change through elections, they're still monitoring them. The only people that the FBI likes are the people that support the status quo, because that's their job, to defend the status quo. No, there's a difference between knowing that it's possible or even likely, and then how you behave when it actually being on the receiving end. Oh yeah, no, totally. That's really what it is. It's more like we suspected that we were on these lists, and now we know we are.
Like the Houthi, like, did you interview a Houthi? It says here that you interviewed a Houthi. And I was like, or was he actually a Houthi? And I was like, he's not. You can look to all of the reporting that came out afterwards and before I interviewed him, that he's not a Houthi, that he is a regular Yemeni citizen. And I said, like, his name is Rashid al-Haddad. He is not even a Shia. And the dude, luckily, again, Iraqi, went, oh yeah, that's right. That's a Sunni last name. Al-Haddad is a Sunni last name. So he must not have been a Houthi. And the very fact that that was like a point of contention that could have gotten me arrested is insane. And I genuinely, in that moment, was thinking, like, these dumbass slop tubers are actually playing with fire. And I even thought about not even mentioning this, because I was like, I don't want to give him any sort of like power over the situation. But like, the reality of the matter is 100% the Trump administration is inadvertently working with a lot of these dip are playing a formative role in getting people in trouble with the law. Okay, that is literally the case. It was shocking that that was the case, but it is the case. And it's actually very frustrating that it is the case, that this administration doesn't care. That's why they work with Beitar. That's why they work with all these other insane groups. The Barry Weisses of the world actually have motion in this goddamn admin. They're cheering this on over at eSub. Yeah, I know. They can suck my liberals, by the way. One of the largest progressive voices in the country getting detained by the Trump Gestapo. Like, what a wonderful progressive audience they have over there. Anyway, they're straight up fascist at this point. So my point is, it's crazy that like these were actual questions. Like, they asked me about my Twitch bans, okay? And I talked about blowback. I talked about how, you know, I said America deserved 9/11 and it was misconstrued. You know, I do have sometimes I use hyperbolic language and it gets taken out of context or whatever. And he agreed with the blowback sentiment in terms of like the 9/11 stuff. Yeah, they asked me about my Twitch bans, chat. It's not even a joke. They asked me about Twitch bans. The other Twitch ban he asked me about was the last one that I got banned. And I explained to him, like, this is, man, you really talk way too much. Lawyer will be pretty upset at you. Dude, what are you talking about? I know that under normal circumstances, I'm supposed to say, I want a lawyer. I don't want to talk to you. But this, nothing I'm doing is illegal. And I also wanted to see what would happen. Do you understand? I wanted to see what would happen. I wanted to actually see this experience, which is why instead of immediately lawyering up, I was like, no, I'm going to entertain this. I'm going to see what they actually are trying to get out of this. And I'm glad I did this, because the reality of the matter is, one, I'm profoundly privileged. Okay. Remember, I'm a public person. And also, I have enough money to be able to fight back against this sort of thing. And they know who the I am. So obviously, the reason for why they're doing that is, I think, to try to create an environment of fear, to try to get people like myself, or at least like others that would be in my shoes that don't have that same level of security, to shut the up. And for me, I'm going to use the privilege that I have in that moment to try and see what the they're doing. Okay. Because every single thing that they ask me, trying to get me to say something like, oh, I support Hamas or whatever, is literally not allowed. Like, what the
do you mean? Like, why is this denying me entry into the country of my birth? Like, this is my birthright. I'm an American citizen. You can't just stop me at the border and be like, what's your opinion on Donald Trump? You're not allowed to enter the nation. Like, that was the first half. Like I said, they asked about the Twitch bans. They asked about like the Rick Scott statement. And I was like, listen, you know, I laughed. I was like, I'm not calling for the assassination of a sitting senator to be insane. But instead, I explained to him, like, I was talking about the hypocrisy of the Republicans, blah, blah, blah. I explained away all that shit, and he was understanding.
My reaction to this is there's nothing you can say to cops that are going to help you. Nothing. I want you guys to understand this. This is something that a lot of people who are smart, even lawyers, sometimes fall into this trap. There is nothing you can say to the cops or law enforcement that is going to help you. All you should be doing in this kind of situation is being like, I'm just trying to get home, man. Just trying to get home. I don't really think this is, you know, these are all my, like, these are irrelevant. I'm just trying to get home. Why are you stopping me? And you should be collecting the information of the questions they ask, and you should write them all down. You should write down all the questions that they're asking you, or memorize them if they don't let you. Instead of going like, I really did a good debate point there.
Then he went back and he came back, and the actionable items that came up afterwards was basically asking me about if I had ever been in contact with Hamas, if I'd ever been in contact with the Houthis directly or indirectly, if I'd ever actually been in contact with Hezbollah, if I'd actually ever offered financial support or logistics or any kind of support to Hamas, Hezbollah, or Houthis. They straight up asked me that. I laughed. I said, no, of course not. But yeah, that was, once again, these are questions that they're asking. But one thing that I thought was really interesting was in the actionable side of things, they also asked, have you ever interviewed a member of Hamas? Have you ever had a communication or correspondence with a member of Hamas, Hezbollah, or the Houthis? Now, what's really insane about that is that as someone who works in media, sometimes I do actually do journalism, right? As I've maintained this position over and over again. And I said that I would, if given the opportunity, talk to someone that is a part of the...
Bro. Juro should be furious about this part. This is a clear violation of prior restraint. My reaction would just be like, what part of this is a necessary border investigation? My professional work, how is that relevant to why I'm here? I would interview the interviewer. Like, instead of just be like, I'm not going to comment on my thoughts. I'm not going to comment on my political opinions. I'm an American citizen trying to return home. What's going on here? I think one of the things that is really interesting about this is one of the crises that the left has, and as you know, and I think Hassan has the same problem, which is the purpose of state power is so you don't have to debate. The purpose of the state is to resolve the debate one way or the other. We do debates until someone takes over the state, and then they choose a winner. So you could argue and have the most rational arguments to the end of time, but if you don't control the state, you don't control the gun. And if you don't control the gun, the person who controls the gun tells you what to do. As Mao said, political power flows from the barrel of a gun. If they have it and you don't, debating with them is pointless. And every time you have a discussion with them, you're giving them more opportunities to look for a misstatement that they can characterize as a lie. Whether it's a misstatement or a misrecollection, failed recollection, whatever, they're trying to find something that they could use to say that you were dishonest or that you lied or that you know, whatever. If it's pointless, why do they let him go? They're trying to catch him in a lie. They're trying to investigate and put more into the file. They're also trying to anticipate what his defenses might be. If you tell, like, I'll give you an example. If I'm playing football with you, and right before every play, I tell you what play I'm about to run, you're going to be a lot more effective on defense than if I keep my mouth shut and force you to try to interpret my actions and anticipate my actions. Because I might do, so when you explain what you're going to do to defend your position to the cops who are trying to prosecute you, they can anticipate it and they can look to refute it. If your only real criticism is he didn't protect himself enough that this chat is really overreact. I think the chat is getting a little bit overreactive. Yeah, we love Hassan. And I'm glad that he's okay. I just want to say this. And this is for everybody who's whining and bitching and moaning at Hassan and kind of victim blaming. Shut the fuck up. Stop victim blaming, idiot. This is a fascist fucking move to intimidate and chill speech. Shut the fuck up and show solidarity for Hassan. I don't care if he did one or two things wrong that I wouldn't have done. The answer is Hassan is in the right 100%, and you're behind him 100%, no matter what he did or said. Shut the fuck up. Stop being hypercritical of the victim of a fucking fascist repression attempt. He didn't do anything wrong. Shut the fuck up. Now, when we're talking about, like, shut the fuck up or whatever, we're just trying to... I want you to think of this as a war, and you're a spy. How would you act if you were in a war and the enemy military had detained you and was trying to figure out that you're a spy, and you are a spy? That's how much you should talk to the fucking feds. You should give them absolutely nothing to be suspicious of, absolutely nothing to go on. They're not on your side. They're not reasonable.
The Ansar Allah movement, a Houthi, or even Hamas, or even Hezbollah, right? I think that I have the right to do so. So that is the part where they were like, if you answer yes to any of that, that's when, you know, there's like actually illegal stuff in there. Having said that, there is one part of it that wasn't illegal, which is being in communications or being in contact with someone at Hamas. Like,
what Hassan doesn't understand is that could then be used as a pretext to get a warrant to fucking monitor your communications. They could use that as an investigatory pretext to get probable cause. So when they're like, oh, would you contact that? Be like, no, it's none of your business who I contact. Shut the fuck up. Like, come on, what are you doing?
That is a part of journalism.
They don't need a warrant. The NSA already does it. You guys are fucking stupid. You guys are fucking stupid. You're actually tilting me because you're fucking stupid. The NSA primarily monitors U.S. to foreign communications. You should assume all of those are monitored at all times. However, domestic communications that Hassan makes could then be opened up for monitoring. Investigatory monitoring by law enforcement, as opposed to intelligence gathering meta information, which is a significant difference. And again, because you people don't really understand the distinctions between the two, you don't understand why that's really bad. Now, maybe they already are doing that. I'll be honest, chat. For the most part, I think of my communications on the internet to be monitored. I don't think there's anything in any of my communications that I particularly would be worried about being shown to me in a trial.
You actually can do. It's ridiculous. Like, you can interview ISIS. Like, what are we talking about? The notion that this would be an issue for the Customs and Border Patrol is ridiculous. Okay, I mean, Donald Trump is in contact with Hamas. He had a envoy directly talk to Hamas a couple months prior. He's in direct contact with the Houthis. Like, what are you talking about? And so is Dropsite. Like, the idea that this will deny you entry into the country is like, what are we talking about? What do you mean? Like, what kind of insane double standard is there? Right? So that part was frustrating. And the interview, interrogation, whatever you want to call it, that basically ended with me asking, like, so what is the purpose of this? Like, am I being detained? And because I was like, you know that I'm going to talk about this. I was like, a lot of people have talked about this, like, detainment structure. And he was like, yeah, people really exaggerate how these things go. And I was like, well, it is not a great situation to be in, you know? Like, what do you mean? And yeah, he was like, yeah, there's been a lot of reporting on, you know, the conditions in situations like this in detainment, but you're not technically detained. I was like, so I can leave? Like, I asked him, like, I was like, am I detained? And he's like, no. I was like, all right, so what's the purpose of this entire situation? I could just walk out right now. And basically, when I said that, the interview ended. So I don't know if that was something that I should have said from the start. Am I being detained? You know, what's the deal here? That's your Fourth Amendment right? No, you don't have. Okay, chatters, I need you to understand something. So after I said, am I being detained or whatever, he was like, no, well, you know, he didn't like abruptly end it. He kept asking some questions, but it pretty much ended after that. And I don't know if that's like, I got lucky there, because when I asked, like, am I free to go? That kind of stopped the process a little bit. And I don't know if that's the reason why I didn't have them look through my phone, but I wasn't planning on letting them look through my phone anyway. That was my point. Like, there was a line where I was going to say, I'm done with this. Either arrest me or, you know, let me go. I don't know what's happening here. I got detained. I didn't get detained. Yes, chatter. Yes. ICE agents took me to a detention center that is
a de facto detention. Like, what are you talking about? The total runtime of it was like 2 hours, which was definitely faster than I thought it was going to be, I will admit. And
2 hours? Yo, bro, that's not fast.
I probably should have asked, am I being detained from the start? And I wonder what would have happened. But I basically asked him, like, do you think this is going to happen again? Right? I was like, is this going to happen again? And he said, maybe. And he gave me this piece of paper, this sheet from Homeland Security. What is DHS TRIP? Okay. And you can, I guess, submit an inquiry at dhs.gov/trip and ask why I was stopped. You will be prompted to describe your particular concerns and experience, provide contact information to which a response will be directed, and be assigned a case number to help you monitor the progress of your inquiry, which I will do. Okay, I will do this. And he basically said, you know, you can figure out what not to do so that this doesn't happen again. And I suspect the what not to do is just don't be a political commentator that speaks about American foreign policy, which is not something I'm planning on stopping. Now, why did I tell you guys about this experience? Okay. Why did I tell you about this entire experience? Like, because in my mind, I thought maybe I shouldn't reveal this stuff, because I think like the goal here is to put fear into people's hearts, to have a chilling effect on speech, that like the government is unafraid of intimidating you in illegal ways. Okay. The government is now officially willing and able to intimidate you for your speech. That is a direct violation of the First Amendment. I'm no First Amendment auditor. I'm no big city libertarian. I'm no Mr. Admiral Maritime Law. But
I think a culture that has those type of like libertarian, civil libertarian types, people that are like, the government can't do this to me, I have rights. I think that's part of a healthy culture, actually, where citizens feel like they can push back against law enforcement and say, this piece of paper says you can't bother me, and they do it with confidence. That's a healthy society. A society where people feel like, yeah, you can do that. That is a good thing. That means that the law enforcement gangs, which is what they are at least somewhat contained. In societies where the law enforcement gangs aren't contained, then you have problems.
Reality of the matter is that as of this administration, they are totally willing and able to actually come after you for your speech. And even with like ridiculous, like they're willing and able to go along with like stuff that gets written in the free press, or willing and able to go along with that even editors bring up. Okay, that's how stupid and silly this situation has gotten. Now, of course, does this stop me from saying whatever the I want to say? Of course not. Don't be ridiculous. But the reason why I wanted to talk about it was to give you more insight into what the government is doing and to speak out against this sort of stuff, because I do have a position of privilege here, and I want to make sure that like you should know your rights, that you should not be fearful, and you should not worry, especially if you're an American citizen, that these guys are going to come after you and like arrest you or something. Okay, but it is pretty wild, I will say. As someone who's been held up in airports many times over, it was actually shocking that these guys totally grabbed me, knowing exactly who I am, knowing that I will most likely talk about this, with the hopes that I think that they would at least stoke some fear and threaten people like myself, and then also threaten others as a byproduct of this. I mean, it backfired in my situation, but I hope this doesn't discourage others from speaking out as well. They don't have the right to do this, okay? They do not have a right to do this. If you don't already know, your ops are doing mass email campaigns to the feds to try and get this exact same thing to happen. Yeah, I know. They can suck my for all of my dumbass ops. I think it's really, really crazy that the government is willing and able to work with like genuine schizophrenic stalkers, whether they be Beitar or any other group. It is actually wild that they're willing and able to work with these people. It blows my mind, but you know, that is where we're at. It also blows my mind that there are people who see this kind of stuff and go, oh, that's wonderful. It's like swatting. But this time it's a federal swatting that we can do. We can get the federal agents to like jail people that my
number one beef with this position is that he treats fascist enforcers looking to jail him with the same charitability as random dumb fuck citizens. Fascists are not your friend. I mean, listen. I think that in your mental prison, you should see all police and law enforcement agents who are questioning you as enemies who are trying to do you harm. That being said, you need to have strategies of dealing with people interpersonally. If you think you can establish a rapport where you don't volunteer anything that might hurt you and you can get the interaction over with, that's good. I think being disagreeable and confrontational and moody could cause the situation to escalate. And they're in the power position. They're the ones who can enact violence on you and be justified under color of law. So you need to be fucking thoughtful. Understand in your mind that these people are not on your side, but do what you need to do to get through the interaction without, giving up shit and being a loudmouth and blabbering in front of them, and just shut the fuck up as a general rule. Don't volunteer information. Don't answer irrelevant questions. Focus on, be cordial. Don't be rude. The purpose is, I want to get to my destination. I don't want to have some confrontation with Border Patrol. And by the way, Hassan is just absolutely blowing up. Like, Ethan Klein, thank you. You are my best friend. Destiny, you are my best friend. There's nothing that's going to do more to polarize liberals in favor of Hassan than this. And the bigger Hassan gets, the bigger I'm going to get. He's the wide part of the funnel, baby. So the more people are watching Hassan, the more radical left wing the Democratic Party is going to get. The more, it is amazing. So polarizing libs in favor of Hassan. Great move, idiot. Great move, idiot. Thank you, Ethan Klein. Thank you, Destiny. You should tell the Trump administration to hate us even more. Dumb fucks. Like, this is just how it works. Like, it's crazy how much they've helped us grow because they think they actually are intelligent. Oh, God. Oh, God. Asmon Gold. Oh, God. Oh, God. Oh, God. Where is he most popular? Alaska? Oh, it's because of OTK, Lost Ark. Interesting.
Content creator doesn't like. Airports are not constitutional free zones. That's a lie that ICE pushes to make you comply with them. That's not entirely correct, Lesbian Bolivar. There's years and years of precedent in post 9/11 war on terror world where they have actually created a structure where they can get away with violating your Fourth Amendment rights in airports. Like, it's an illegal gray area. Here was Lolo. Overrules take DHS flagging and detaining one of U.S.'s largest left-wing voices for their political opinions, while the Trump admin suggests they might suspend habeas corpus, does not portend well for the future. Yeah, that's where we're at. What was the reason for the detainment? You know what the reason for the detainment was. It's because I am flagged in the flight manifest. Is this going to change the way you travel? No, but it does actually gum up the works a little bit in terms of going to Cuba. I forgot. There was other questions that they asked, like, have you traveled to the Middle East? Have you been to any of the Gulf states? All this and, it is what it is.
Those are the type of questions you have to answer, and you should answer truthfully. Like, you should just be like you shouldn't tell falsehoods, border guards. The Border Patrol basically has everything that's ever happened or collected on you available to them. Even things that are under seal, even things that have been expunged. This is something that I should probably talk just to explain things to people. I'll be Mike from PA, value add, clippable moment. The Customs and Border Patrol have access to every government document and every law enforcement encounter that you have had. If it's documented and on the internet, they have it. Whether I'm talking about arrests that don't get prosecuted, I'm talking about expunged stuff, I'm talking about things that was dismissed with prejudice. It doesn't matter. They have it. And they can ask you about it. And if you lie about it, like say you got cited for marijuana 9 years ago, and the criminal conviction was expunged, and they say, have you ever been convicted of a crime? And you say no, that's a lie to them. They'll say, I see that you had this thing. What happened about this thing in 2016? Didn't you get arrested in 2016? Now you're a liar. You've just lied to Border Patrol. So like, that is literally, I think you should be aware that Customs and Border Patrol, they also have like extra constitutional authority because the Supreme Court has ruled that the Border Patrol has the right to investigate people that are trying to transit the borders. So you don't have the right to remain silent. You don't have the right to, from searches and seizures. Conviction is an arrest, Mike. I know what I'm talking about and you don't. Shut the fuck up. Shut the fuck up. Jesus fucking Christ. Shut the fuck up. They have your arrest records. They have your expunged convictions. I know that they are different, you dumb fuck. Jesus fucking Christ. I'm trying to explain to you dumb pieces of shit that they have everything. So yes, they have your convictions too, but they also have your arrests. That's why I said dismissed with prejudice and unpursued earlier in the fucking statement. Were you listening? The worst type of chatter is the chatter that tries to correct you with just nonsense. That is the worst type of chatter.
I'm not discouraged. I'm not intimidated. I don't give a
I'm listening maybe too hard. I'm sorry for losing my shit. I literally was saying arrests because I want you to understand it includes non-convictions, and they can ask you about it. And if you don't tell, if they interpret what your answer to be evasive, they'll call you a liar. They have records of previous notes that were taken by Border Patrol agents on you. You need to understand that they have, as I said before, any record, any law enforcement record, they have access to it. What happens if they know you've lied? It depends on the nature of the lie.
What I'm doing. That was my Customs and Border Patrol experience. And yeah, it's just like pure intimidation tactics. And it was very similar to the experience that one TikToker talked about. But luckily, I never got to the point of having them
go
through.
So if you get detained at a traffic stop but let you go without any ticket, that doesn't sound like an arrest that would be logged. So I doubt that would be there. But they wouldn't ask about that. And if they're like, have you ever been convicted of a crime and you have gotten a traffic ticket before? You just be like, well, I don't know, maybe speeding ticket. Like, if that's the only thing you've been convicted of, then you would say that.
My phone, and that was my red line. Like, no matter what, that was where I was going to be like,
what if I pull the everything I say is a lie and that is the honest truth bit to them? Is if I was tempting, that's called being a smart ass, and will get them to go from 0 to 11.
You can't do that, and arrest me then if you want to. Oh, this is the experience that it closely resembled, by the way. ICE detains a woman who runs anti-Trump TikTok. She's a U.S. citizen born and raised. She was detained for hours as agents searched her phone and social media, even demanding financial statements on how much she earns on TikTok. They never asked me for my financial statements either. The woman who goes by Eye of Sav was returning from a European vacation at the Miami International Airport with a valid global re-entry card issued to her as a U.S. citizen, but she also had global entry. How worried were you about actually being arrested? I have no idea. I had no idea if I was going to be arrested or not. I didn't know if this was going to be a moment where I was going to be the precedent-setting court case. You know what I mean? Like, that is definitely a worry that I have for sure. It's something that I think about because eventually, somewhere along the line, someone is going to be the precedent-setting court case of whether or not someone gets prosecuted for speech and speech alone. Because the line right now is material support. And that line is being blurred by this current administration with Mahmoud Khalil, with Mohsen Mahdawi, with Rumeysa Öztürk, right? Some of those people have been released at this point, but Mahmoud Khalil is still very much in detention. And according to Marco Rubio, the argument that they are trying to use is that speech is material support, right? They are actively trying to blur the boundaries between what constitutes material support to try to make it seem as though things that would be protected under First Amendment would be considered material support. Expressing any sort of opinion is considered material support. And that's maybe you shouldn't have said if they come for me, then it's over, as if you'd be last. If you're a public figure, dog, maybe you'd be first now. No, because they haven't come for me beyond like being a nuisance and being annoying and thinking that they can get away with like trying to put some sort of fear in my heart, which is of course not going to work, obviously. Do you think that's all they wanted? I don't know. Maybe they're setting up an investigation for the future. Who knows? We'll find out. We shall find out. Seamus said, been pulled into secondary screening many times at O'Hare. CBP had the most involved in specific questions about Gaza for me by far. Glad to see you got out of there without having to give up your devices. Yeah. Are you concerned about landing in LA? No, because that's domestic travel. There's no Customs and Border Patrol experience during domestic travel. That'd be insane. But yeah, I am my worst enemy in that regard. I did want to get this interaction out because I wanted to like figure out what the they were doing, and I'm fortunate that I didn't actually get into any additional trouble, but I could have, you know what I mean? That could have certainly happened, right? And who knows? I can't imagine how scared the other non-American citizens waiting there were. It's evil. Yeah, it's so much worse for them because like I am profoundly privileged, as I say all the time. I'm profoundly privileged. I'm rich. I'm an American citizen. I was born here, you know? I mean, I'm a public figure on top of that. So all of this stuff plays a role in how protected I am from additional scrutiny. I'm not doing anything that is illegal to begin with, but I'm not even doing anything that like reaches the territory of edge. No matter how much slop tubers try to make it seem as though like I'm running around waving the Hamas banner every day or whatever the like, which still would be protected under the First Amendment and would not stop the Gestapo from denying me entry into my own country. I'm not doing that regardless. Like all the stuff that I have talked about on this broadcast are still completely not only First Amendment protected, but also on top of that, like not even reaching the standard of like truly questionable speech, regardless of what like Mudahar or Asmongold claims it is, right? It doesn't reach that standard. And that's precisely the reason why they have to actively clip shit out of context and desperately try to create drama surrounding this so they can get Twitch to enforce some action on it, so they can make it seem as though this is actually truly radical speech that's like really up. Does that make sense? Because like when a platform like Twitch actually does take action against someone like myself, then other institutions will basically use that as a way to say, oh, he did do something bad. He did do something up. So it is what it is.
Holy shit. And if you want to see, so that was a pretty important moment, chat. That it was really wild was this. It was one of the most covered stories in the media. Twitch streamer Hassan Piker said he was questioned by U.S. Customs at airport, NBC. New York Post, liberal loudmouth streamer Hassan Piker claims he was detained by U.S. immigration officials. Hassan Piker, popular left-wing streamer, says he was detained at airport. Mr. Piker said he was questioned for 2 hours on topics including the war in Gaza and President Trump. Left-wing pundit Hassan Piker says U.S. border agents grilled him on Trump and Gaza. U.S. border progressive streamer says officials at Chicago airport led him to private room on return from France. Twitch star Hassan Abi says he was detained, questioned by border agents. Hassan Piker, a left-wing political commentator who has 2.8 million followers on Twitch, says he was asked about his political affiliation, his opinion of Trump, and whether he had connections to terrorist groups. Pro-Gaza streamer says he was detained at U.S. airport. Popular streamer Hassan Piker claims he was detained for hours by U.S. airport officials over his political views. The influencer, who has more than 6 million followers across Twitch, Instagram, TikTok, and X, says he was held when he returned to Chicago from France. Mr. Piker, who is known for his pro-Gaza stance and criticism of Donald Trump, says he was quizzed on his views about the Middle East and the president and accused the U.S. government attempting to silence opposition voices with intimidation. Environment of fear. Popular U.S. leftist Twitch streamer Hassan Piker says he was grilled about Trump by customs agents at Chicago airport. Influencer believes questioning was an attempt to potentially detain him permanently. Rolling Stone. Streamer Hassan Piker says he was what's your favorite picture they picked? The YouTube Streaming Award. We're living in okay. Well, it looks like we got I see here. Twitch streamer Hassan Piker says he was questioned. Okay, maybe I got that one already. Okay, I got that one already. Hassan Piker detained by CBP while re-entering the U.S. from France. I think, ladies and gentlemen, can we just take a moment to thank Ethan Klein for mainstreaming Hassan? Thank you, Ethan Klein. Without you, Ethan Klein, Hassan wouldn't have been mainstreamed. Ethan Klein, thank you for mainstreaming Hassan. Like, I would have never heard of him without that. The Leftovers podcast was politically so relevant and important. Hassan likes to downplay his role in the movement. Do you know why he does that, chat? Not to speak for Hassan, but I suspect the reason he does that is it's the only way to stay sane. If Hassan was like, I'm one of the most important political voices in America, he would probably have a little bit of an anxiety attack. We always like to believe there's someone else in some room somewhere who's running the show and doing things intelligently. And but there isn't. It's just us. There is no room. There isn't some room at UAW headquarters where they're all coordinating leftist shit. There's not Bernie Sanders and his crew are not doing anything intelligently with like some sort of, there's no fucking cabal, because if there was, we would be doing a lot better than we are. You are the room. Fox 54 used Playboy. This has got to be the worst picture. A progressive influencer tells of detention at U.S. airport. Hassan Piker pictured with Playboy buddies at an event in Washington in 2018 says he was interrogated on his political views. We have got to show this. I gotta show him this. Yo! All right, hold on, chat. He's gotta be live. Okay, he's live. Yo.
Violence. Oh, dude, that's funny. Seeing my friends posting on their IG stories of my Whiplash Chi-Town baby. Yeah. Anyway, all right, hold on. Let me keep going. Let me keep going. There's a lot going on.
Okay, he didn't respond. Fuck.
Wait, this is my favorite photo of you.
Okay,
what the hell? Progressive influencer tells of detention at U.S. airport. There ain't no way. Hassan Piker pictured with Playboy bunnies at an event in Washington in 2018 says he was interrogated about his political views. That's hilarious, dude. That's a fantastic photo. Your detention story seriously blew up. Yeah, I don't know what they were thinking. Of course it was going to blow up. You're detaining one of the largest.
Oh, that was so funny, man. I am honestly, chat, like I am the highest ranking chatter in the community. Let's be honest. Okay, I am the highest ranking chatter, which means other chatters disagree with me. Like, that's part of being a chatter, is yelling at other chatters. But I am the highest ranking chatter. It's okay. It's true, dude, your ego is huge. Calling myself a chatter is fucking self-deprecation. Calling yourself a chatter is like what? That's self-deprecation. Okay. This went on way longer than I thought. I didn't realize I would have so much to say about this. Like, we really had a lot of fun on this conversation. I also ranted at somebody who tried to do, like, go, the Houthis are so bad. Oh my God, the Houthis. I didn't even get to anything else I wanted to talk about. Mike, how dare you be parasocial with a streamer? I say that as a tier 3 sub. Thank you, Cyberfair. I love your comedic timing and confidence. You're right. My comedic timing is impeccable. I am so funny. Can we talk about the R slur for a minute? I wanted to talk about this. This is a new video from Second Thought, but it's something that I've noticed, and I gotta tell you, I know why this is happening. Of all the slurs, you know, like I grew up, I went to high school. I was in high school in 1998, chat, is when I started high school. Let's just say it was a different time, all right? In 1998, we used to throw around some slurs, okay? I'm not saying it was good. I'm not saying it's okay. I'm just saying what it is, okay? And honestly, people wouldn't even think of the R slur as a slur. Like, this is something you might have even said in class. Maybe your teacher would get mad at you, but you wouldn't get detention. That's how acceptable using the R slur was. So to say that it's been great to see a transition has been awesome. However, the reactionaries are trying to bring it back. Now, I gotta tell you, of all the bad no-no words that I don't use out of respect, this is the one that is the hardest for me to move on from. This is the one that took me the most rehabilitation and reformation and thought. And it's because, have you ever seen a Trump person talk? Have you seen an Asmon Gold stream? Like, have you seen someone who's defending Trump talk? Have you seen an Asmon Gold stream? Have you seen a Destiny stream? It comes unbidden, and it's a struggle. It's a struggle because they are remedial intellects. They are behind peer level. Like, when you're in high school, you know, have you ever heard the phrase, this person has a 9th grade reading level, or this is a 12th grade reading level? Like, they are somebody who is got a childlike brain. They're an adult, but they think like a child, which means their level of progress has been slowed down. And when something gets slowed down, the word we use is retarded. It's been retarded. Now, like, the most common use of that word is for example, in aviation, there is a parachute can retard a plane. Like, sometimes they call that a drag chute. All right. Now, I am not using this. I don't like using this word. I think it's wrong to call people this word. I try not to use this word because I think that there are people that have disabilities, intellectual disabilities, that are being lumped in with these people. And if you've ever met somebody with intellectual disabilities, you know they have nothing in common with a fascist. They are oftentimes some of the kindest people you're going to meet. So I actually think of people with intellectual disabilities as uniquely better people than any fascist. So the reason why I don't use the R slur is because I care about those people and I don't want to associate those people with a fascist. A fascist is in many ways dumber than people that are suffering from intellectual disabilities. And so that's why it's important you don't use it. The Airbus flight controller tells you to retard. You're just said right before you slam it to the ground. Lit calls you the R word right before you die. Yeah.
Is it just me, or does it seem like conservatives are getting really comfortable with casual cruelty these days?
The Cruel Kids Table.
The Cruel Kids Table.
Are you cruel? They want to be able to say slurs.
People feel like they can say the R word specifically.
We're going to call them fags and again.
Many people feel or see a power in that.
It was an act of astonishing cruelty and callousness.
There's literally a floating island of garbage in the middle of the ocean right now. I think it's called Puerto Rico.
Will you come take it out of my ham? I'm gonna eat half this plate during the break. Maybe I'll call the ICE hotline. I don't know if I'll have enough time.
If somebody's getting deported, I actually find it hilarious. I find you guys to be subhumans.
Since the inauguration, we've seen conservatives lashing out. They're excited. They're calling people slurs as if it's edgy and not just sad. And while this isn't new by any means, it does feel more intense and shameless now that Trump is in office.
And our country will be woke no longer.
But no one is shocked, right? No one is shocked this is happening. Just like no one is shocked who is being targeted. Immigrants.
We're getting the bad, hard criminals out. These are murderers. These are people that have been as bad as you get.
But also trans people.
Since taking office more than a week ago, he's now taken several actions focusing on transgender people.
And really, anyone they've lumped in with the DEI label, including women, black people, the rest of the queer community, people with disabilities, and on and on. Everyone knows what we're talking about here. They even made a list for us.
NSF employees were given a list of words, this list of words, to look for in grants and flag them for possible termination. This, by the way, is only a sampling of the words. It's much longer.
At the policy level, it's clear what the point of this is. DEI is nothing more than an excuse conservatives use to defund, deregulate, and gut whatever public agency is on the chopping block. Trump and Elon want to eliminate more and more parts of the government until all they're left with are the cops and the bits that'll keep them rich, cutting out anything and everything that keeps everyone else safe or generally makes life in a society have a point. The rhetoric is working side by side with devastating policies, and those policies are making life worse for everyone, but especially those conservatives are painting as different. If all of that is pretty obvious, the rationale behind why DEI specifically works is a little less clear. That is, until you realize that this kind of thing isn't all that new. It's part of a long American tradition of backlash politics. And to really understand it, to really grasp where this misplaced anger against disenfranchised people is coming from, we're going to need to talk about the economic roots of conservative politics and how liberal politicians like Biden and Obama have played into this. Hey everyone, I just wanted to take a quick second to thank our channel sponsor, Aura. With the recent ones safe online, you can get a 2-week trial completely free when you use my...
Even teasing this thought out as if there was some merit to using this slur for low IQ people is whack. It's kind of tone deaf. I don't think you can make this argument for any other slur toward a marginalized group. The conflation of low IQ and those with cognitive disabilities is gross. IQ isn't really a very useful metric for talking about what we're talking about. We're not really talking about IQ. We're not really talking about intellect, because intellect means a lot of things. What we're really talking about is ability for a person to discern right from wrong and truth from fiction, right? And a person's curiousness or incuriousness, their empathy versus their callousness. And those are the different things that we're talking about. We're not really talking about some raw intelligence factor. We're talking about like whether you are like, there were plenty of really intelligent people in the Middle Ages, right? But they believed all sorts of dumbass shit because they didn't have a framework and there wasn't cultural systems and there wasn't institutions set up that they could divine truth from fiction or get closer to actual reality. So they believed all sorts of cockamamie bullshit because they had peasant brain, and having peasant brain wasn't their fault. Even though they were sharp, even though they were bright people and they had that raw intelligence, It was within a system that led to stupid beliefs. And so I think it's a bigger tragedy when someone is really intelligent but has stupid beliefs than somebody who is not that quick but who has an effective way of learning the truth.
My link. That's plenty of time to see whether any of your personal data has been compromised and to opt out of all those obnoxious spam lists. If you're serious about protecting yourself and your loved ones online, give Aura a shot. It's a great service that I personally use, and every sign-up directly supports our work here at Second Thought. Thanks for your consideration. All right, back to the video. Let's talk about backlash.
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 If you haven't heard about it before, backlash, or more commonly, white backlash, is a term we sometimes hear when progressive politics are violently reversed by conservatives. It's usually called white backlash specifically because we've seen this happen mostly when white conservatives violently make sure white people stay above everyone else. The most obvious example of this happened after the Reconstruction era. If you remember, the 15th Amendment made it so that states couldn't deny black men the right to vote anymore, and as a result, 500,000 black men joined voter rolls and elected nearly 2,000 black representatives. This obviously didn't end racism or white supremacy, but that possibility was scary enough that, in response, white conservatives got to work finding ways to exclude black voters to make sure it never could. You've definitely heard of this already, but the Jim Crow era backlash to Reconstruction meant a whole new list of things designed to keep black voters out, like literacy tests and poll taxes at the voting booth. Parties also ran all-white primaries to make sure black candidates weren't even making it on the ballot, and generally made it near impossible for black Americans to vote or get elected. And it all worked. The poll tax they set up in Georgia, for example, cut black voter turnout in half. Meanwhile, white voters could skirt most of these new laws by being grandfathered in, meaning whatever voting status their grandfather had, they would automatically get too. For black Americans whose grandparents were slaves, this obviously didn't apply. Whites had literal inherited privilege, and so society remained heavily segregated to the benefit of white Americans. But like I said, this didn't stop in the 1800s. The backlash we saw after Reconstruction, we also saw against the civil rights movement in the 60s, the women's movement in the 70s, and the gay rights movement in the 90s. When poll taxes and literacy tests were abolished, for example, backlash happened through new techniques like gerrymandering, voter ID laws, anti-progressive judge appointments, the war on drugs, and more recently, the dismantling of things like affirmative action policies on the grounds of fairness. Meanwhile, by the way, wealthy legacy admissions are completely untouched. And it's not hard to see all this new anti-DEI stuff as another example of backlash. DEI is the new woke. Woke was the new CRT. CRT was the new BLM. BLM was the new politically correct. And PC was the new civil rights activist, and so on, and so on. In the mouths of conservatives, these words are synonyms for black, trans, gay, woman, and all those things become shorthand for bad, unqualified, entitled, lazy, or undeserving. This might sound exaggerated to some people, but we just saw an incredibly obvious example of this when that helicopter crashed into a plane in DC earlier this year.
That a small aircraft collided with a helicopter.
Trying to recover the wreckage from the American Airlines jet and the Army helicopter, both colliding, killing everyone on board the two different aircrafts.
We do not know what led to this crash, but we have some very strong opinions.
Trump immediately blamed DEI in the vaguest terms possible, giving conservatives a long leash to flood social media with their attempts at finding out if anyone involved was indeed DEI. Meaning not a straight white guy. They assumed, without needing to say it explicitly, that if everyone involved was a straight white guy, then they couldn't possibly be unqualified. As if white men had a monopoly on being qualified, despite the fact that if there's any group whose race and gender has given them a leg up, it's white men. Knowing full well that the odds were high that someone involved wouldn't fit that bill, the conservative project for the week became finding out every single person involved and, based exclusively on their identity, figure out if they really deserved to be there. And for a minute, they were happy, because one of the pilots was a trans woman. Except, no, she wasn't involved. Joe Ellis, the trans woman misidentified by thousands of conservatives online, is alive and well. But in the frenzy to find a scapegoat, her identity became a lightning rod for the anti-trans backlash crowd. Another piece of evidence in favor of letting the system continue to pump out white supremacy. But let's refocus. To hear the right talk about wanting to say slurs and moving further right explicitly for that purpose, then slashing anything related to progressive causes, they usually imply that it's because the left went too far. As if anybody actually suffered because they were told saying slurs could be inconsiderate. As though DEI policies ever reversed the racist hiring and firing practices of American businesses or resolved the disparities we have in our society. It doesn't matter. Woke was just too much too fast. That's something we've heard a lot from conservatives, particularly from apolitical comedians. But what I haven't told you yet is that even though I keep using the word...
By the way, like, the idea of apolitical comedian is never been true, right? Since the court jester was in the medieval court, comedy has always been one of the most important ways to critique power and criticize power. If you're apolitical, it inherently means that you're not criticizing power, which means you're acting in a conservative fashion. If you're apolitical, you are conservative because you don't think the political system is worthy of critique, so you're ignoring it. If you're arguing in favor of the systems that exist, if your comedy is about punching down, you know, if you're a male white comedian who just makes comedy about punching down on women and black people, well, then pretty clearly you have a position, and that is a conservative position. Conservative just means preserve. Preserving what? The status quo. So if your position toward politics is silence, then you are implicitly consenting to it. And therefore you are inherently trying to preserve what already exists. Apolitical does not exist in expressive forms of content like comedy.
Backlash. Almost every single incident of backlash in American history actually took place before progressives had made material progress. All of this stuff, all this conservative anger and reactionary politics, it's almost never based on any actual loss of privilege from what these losers consider normal people, but almost entirely on the fear of losing those privileges.
I will never support somebody that will put me at a disadvantage because of immutable characteristics. Maybe you do not need that. But I think I should be treated fairly, the same as everybody else is. And if somebody says that I shouldn't be treated fairly and I should be put at a disadvantage, then I'm going to vote against them. And
there is no one who thinks that you should be put at a disadvantage or treated unfairly. The only way you could say that is true is, let's say, for example, your job only had white men in it. Only white men are allowed to apply to this job. And then you change it to, well, everybody's allowed to apply to that job. Now, Asmongold, is that putting you at a disadvantage? In your case, the answer would be yes, because you're inferior. If you had to compete against everyone, you're going to lose. Only if we narrow the applicant pool to white men would you have a chance. And so that would mean it gives you personally a disadvantage. But is that a disadvantage to white men in general? Yeah, I mean, it would mean that the white men that do succeed would be of higher quality because they have to compete against everyone. So is he saying that he wants a society where less competent people succeed?
You can say that it's not fair or whatever. Never.
In their minds, equality is a slippery slope that ends with them at the bottom of the hierarchy. Every attempt to redress inequality is therefore reverse racism or giving them a disadvantage, even though it's obviously not. It's a fear that's well documented and completely unfounded. Let me put it clearly. If you are not born as a normal white guy, you will face obstacles that are unique to your group and that normal white guys won't. And the conservative fear that locks those obstacles in place is a direct product of the conservative politics of racial capitalism. That's actually always been the case. Take the Civil Rights Act. Remember how I mentioned that it also experienced backlash? Well, to be more accurate, prior to it being voted in, conservatives were fear-mongering that it would mean favoritism and special privileges for Black Americans. The Civil Rights Act. Conservatives lied, and white Americans were worried that integration would mean subjugation. that they'd be forced to sell their houses to black Americans, or that black people would, quote, take over the country. Again, this was during the Jim Crow era, and none of that was ever part of the Civil Rights Act, obviously. But the newspapers were filled with calls that the civil rights movement was going too far, moving too fast, that they were being unreasonable. Politicians were getting letters from white voters saying, quote, wait a minute, we've got rights too, as if white people's rights were ever in question. The right mobilized to pump out a message of fear and reaction that would block the left on their path to material progress towards equality, thwarting the economic equality that was part of the civil rights movement's demands. The same is true today. DEI initiatives haven't meaningfully transformed the distribution of wealth or power in this country. That doesn't mean it's an entirely bad thing, but by and large, it's a weak attempt by corporations to look less evil without needing to do much. Yes, there are a few women and queer and black people in positions of power, but them just being there hasn't dismantled the system of producing inequality that unfairly targets the groups they belong to. Just to remind you, the average black or Latino household is still far below the average white household in terms of wealth, as is the average queer household. Members of all these groups, non-white people, queer people, those with disabilities, are also still experiencing discrimination and harassment at incredibly high rates, on top of higher levels of poverty, homelessness, and unemployment.
You're one black man who went to a good, essentially white high school in the city of New York.
That's
you
correct.
Obviously had had a good education.
That's
a good many of the people who work with you here in SNCC can say the same thing.
And we're saying that...
And you're a black man who came from a New York ghetto.
And we're saying that there's a system that allows for one or two black people to get out. And that's the rationale for keeping other black people down.
And it has nothing to do with the unwillingness or inability of the Negro to help himself and to work hard.
That's the rationale, that the reason why black people aren't this is because they're lazy, unambitious, stupid, have rhythm, and they eat watermelon.
Nothing's changed. The same year this clip of Kwame Ture was filmed, 1966, columnists in major newspapers were still writing that if the Johnson administration, quote, insists upon ignoring and trampling majority rights in efforts to favor minority groups, they may in time provoke a white revolution. When we focus on the language of backlash like this, we can make it seem like the problem is progressives asking for too much, somehow. As if these simple demands for equality, generations old and still unanswered, are forcing conservatives into reaction. And that's just not the case. Backlash doesn't just happen. It's produced, actively, by conservatives. This media ecosystem, the discriminatory laws, the letter-writing campaigns, and the civil society groups that protested against things like the ERA, this required funding, militancy, and effort from conservatives. This cruelty, then, it's not some spur-of-the-moment anti-woke response to arrogant woke-scolding liberals. It's part and parcel of the conservative political project, and it comes straight out of other things like their obsession with borders. See, part of the current obsession with the border is that it's an acceptable way to engage in racial capitalism for conservatives and liberals alike. Capitalism and capitalists have always been able to use race to distinguish people and use their differences to put people into deserving and undeserving boxes. Labels like DEI become shorthand for these boxes in popular culture while keeping plausible deniability, by the way. In any case, those in the deserving box get well-paid jobs and/or a high social status, or at the very least, they can enjoy a safety net of some kind, knowing that for as bad as things might get for them, they will always be worse for those in the undeserving box. And once you've made a box, what is true for race can be true for differentiating people along any lines, meaning gender, sexuality, ability, whatever you want. Until recently, all of that was fair game in everyday discourse. Plenty of politicians could get away with saying that black people, women, queer people, people with disabilities deserved less. It went without saying. Things are a little better now that that's not so true anymore, except when it is, like with immigrants. While centrist politicians can't attack most of the groups I've just named and get away with it unscathed, groups like immigrants are fair game. The Biden and Obama administrations were rolling out dozens of policies denying asylum seekers, throwing immigrants in Guantanamo Bay.
I mean, they massively increased funding for ICE.
and funneling more and more money to Border Patrol in equal measure to Trump. And they could do it without uproar or fear of being unseated. And just like with other backlash movements, this turn against immigrants happened based on nothing. There is no such thing as a migration crisis. Since the 1800s, immigrants have been a roughly steady 15% of the US population. And by all available metrics, immigrants are no better or worse than the average American. Because of course they aren't. They have only positive impacts on things like Social Security, and no negative impacts on things like native-born wages and employment. Not that thinking along these lines is even right, because just because you're born here doesn't mean you deserve more than another human being. Anyway, racial capitalism. All of these politicians are neoliberals. They are comfortable with the fact that the state has changed its job. It's given up on welfare and the idea that life should improve for everyone across the board, and instead doubled down on policing and categorizing people. Something that they can do easily at the border, and that they can easily transfer to applying within the rest of the US, like we're seeing today with ICE. Like with the rest of the backlash politics, the intensification of border policing comes from a baseless fear of being replaced, and the assumption that that would mean an inversion of the hierarchy. Again, nothing like that has or will happen. But because other forms of discrimination have become socially less acceptable, differentiating the deserving from the undeserving in a socially acceptable way still needs to exist. Hence the all-out war on immigrants. And slowly but surely, the pool starts to get bigger again. First, saying Mexicans are rapists goes down relatively smoothly for about half the country. Then all of a sudden, the question becomes, well, why shouldn't I be able to use the F-slur? I don't really mean it, until I do. This approach sucks, and it protects the wealthy from scrutiny. By beating up on immigrants and then everyone else, conservatives can give their base the impression that they're getting things done without actually helping them. Beating up immigrants doesn't help you. Discriminating against queer and disabled people doesn't help you. Meanwhile, the tariffs make everything more expensive, and SpaceX gets another round of government contracts. The gap between the deserving and undeserving has gotten wider, but everyone moved down except the very richest people on Earth. If women, black people, queer people, people with disabilities, and immigrants can be paid less, denied benefits and healthcare, and locked into gig work, if their homelessness can be swept under the rug, and this is all tolerable because they're undeserving, then as long as those in the in-group aren't pushed down to that same level, the wealthy can slowly lower the acceptable status for everyone. This is where backlash comes in. DEI initiatives signal to the in-group that their status being on the inside is no longer a safety net from the collective freefall we're all trapped in. These initiatives give conservatives the idea that status is now distributed differently. Even though it's not actively making life better for the majority of working class people, regardless of their race, gender, or ability, it doesn't matter. The fear of becoming indistinguishable from the racially subordinated, and of living lives of no more security or privilege than them, resurrects the most extreme forms of racial protectionism.
I think this is actually what it's about. Like, Asmongold is the perfect example of it, right? Like, there's nothing more pathetic. Like, Asmongold is literally living in a heap of trash with vermin crawling all over him. His teeth are rotting out of his head. He looks like a corpse. He's got jaundice. He's literally dying. He looks 35 years older than he is. But to him, he's superior than immigrants. He's superior than some of these, other cultures, right? He's got a superior culture. He does. Asmongold does. Has a superior culture. And so that's why he cleaves so closely to the right wing, because it gives him the sense that he's better than others. Asmongold, you're not better than anyone. Not one person. And I think you, of all people, know that.
Here's the truth. We are all living in a world where the New Deal was destroyed by liberals and conservatives both. Gig work is everywhere. Our healthcare sucks. Higher ed is a debt nightmare. But not everybody experiences it to exactly the same degree or in the same specific ways. The legacies of privilege are still with us and can still give some people a leg up. But DEI discourse gives conservatives the idea that this is slipping away. And instead of fighting for everyone's liberation from this death spiral, the lack of guarantees for those who used to benefit from the top dog status is sparking a new anger. Not at the wealthy, who get to stand behind the president and who actively make your life worse, dear conservative viewer, but at those who have been racialized, those who the border has separated out, those who are too cozy with the undeserving, those who can be cast aside. All the people you share far more in common with than you do any billionaire. So what good are the slurs then? This is how we started the video after all. On some level, it's probably not very deep. Conservatives are feeling emboldened by an administration that's egging that stuff on. They're having fun saying a bad word even though they're not supposed to. And all these conservative pundits are there to wink at them and tell them it's okay. It is painfully lame for the rest of us, but whatever. Within the context of conservative politics, though, these slurs, they're also something else. They're a clear attempt by conservatives to define themselves as part of the in-group by clearly stating who's out, by associating the undeserving or lame or stupid label with someone who is other, someone who doesn't conform, someone who they can signal that they are different and better than. They're advertising to each other that they shouldn't be kicked out. They know that the borders between who's in and who's out are blurry, so they're making sure that everyone knows that they aren't DEI or whatever. The conservative movement isn't exclusively white men, but it is exclusively people who all agree that they're part of the good ones, and that as proud members of the good ones, they will fight to keep the bad guys down, proving it to each other by being as mean and cruel and careless to those they desperately don't want to be associated with. But just know that neoliberalism isn't sparing anyone, conservatives included. The party's over for all of us. And sadly, for a lot of people, just believing in the fantasy that you can be spared because you're the right kind of person can sometimes be enough. So if you're not ready to fight for equality, if you're too stupid or arrogant to see that you're next on the chopping block, why not be cruel if it'll make you feel safe and powerful in the meantime?
Alrighty, well everybody, let's call it there. Hey, what's up, man? Gozy, man. You watched me at the end of the stream where I'm beat after 5 hours of talking. But everybody, thanks for hanging out. We'll be back. We'll be back tomorrow. I'm gonna send you over to VO. VO is streaming. Here's all my other socials: Blue Sky, which I don't post on, my YouTube, which is starting to get videos again, Twitter, Discord, and of course the Tickety Talk. Thank you guys, gals, non-binary pals for hanging out. We've got so much stuff I want to cover. Like I've got a huge pile of things I want to get to, but I haven't been able to get to because of all the fucking bullshit that's happening in the Twitch streaming space. Thank you everybody for all your support. Stay safe out there. Solidarity forever. Thank you to Miss Rachel. Free Palestine. And I want you to understand, when I say free Palestine, I mean from the river to the sea. I mean a one-state solution. I mean the dismantling of the IDF. I mean mass war crimes trials. River to the sea. Palestine will be free. All right, everybody. Thank you so much for hanging out. Stay safe. Solidarity forever, my friends. And of course, remember, that's how we win, baby. Socialism will win. All right, everybody. See ya. Peace and free Palestine. Say hi to VO for me.